is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Nolan on the rollout, looking for Musgrave, towards the back of the end zone, touchdown! Luke Musgrave hauls it in from 27 yards out.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
His Dogs are back on offense, and Bennett finds a wide open Darnell Washington. Look at Darnell Washington roll down the sideline.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Rising over the middle, and it's caught. Dalton Kincaid to the outside. He's home free. Touchdown, Utah.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Bernowski, a little pressure, got rid of it to Kraft. Bounces away from the tacklers. Lowers his shoulder and just bulldozes his way for a first down. And that's why he's going to get drafted.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Well, and good afternoon on this beautiful Thursday. It seems like today has been 4 different days for various reasons, but here we are, 365 Sports in studio, and I'm David Smoak, Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and today I got to give credit to Katie Rader. She is somebody that is in the chat room. She is also somebody that watches and has promoted us and what we do when it comes to the show. Not just for Texas Tech fans, but others. But I woke up to this. She said, I have an idea for a segment for you guys on Thursday. It's looking like East Houston took a stronger beating yesterday than anyone initially thought. And, in fact, they did. Tornadoes, damage, devastation, etc. on the east side of Houston near Pasadena and Deer Park. And she suggested, why don't you contact the high school coach so we can maybe let people know what's going on down there. And I knew that there were storms, did not realize the devastation. And we will hear from Austin Flynn, the head coach at Deer Park High School, here in a little bit, as they had an EF3 going about 18 and a half miles wide through Pasadena, Deer Park, and Baytown in that area. A lot of water in that area as well. So, you know, one of the jobs, our job is to inform. Our also job is to try to help if we possibly can. And I know there's been other tornadoes, but I thought Katie Rader hit it on the head when she sent that advice to us today. So Austin Flynn here in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, my godsons all went to Deer. Well, I think one of them still does, but went to Deer Park High School. So I've been down there a couple times for baseball games and whatnot over the years. It's I've spent a lot of time there. It's been a little bit, but a lot of great people down there, and hopefully, they can get on the other side of all this damage sooner rather than later. But the city of Houston, where it sits and how it is, they're just kind of ripe for weather damage whenever it happens. Once you have like the hurricane a few years ago, once you have something that's that bad, you're never really back at 100% for years and years. It takes 5, 7, 8 years. Ask anybody in Florida. It takes a little bit of time before you like really get back on your feet. And then when you have other stuff, it just makes it worse and kind of, digs you a little bit deeper in the hole.
The couple of notes. Remember Bo Trahan, the former assistant at Tulsa? He's been around. His father was a legendary high school coach. He today has been named as the new football coach at Legacy High School, Craig's alma mater, when it used to be called Lee High School. That's a local note with the Trahan family and what they've meant to Texas high school football. I mentioned Rashawn Woods at Tyler High, so that's a couple of unique names, both with college experience. I saw this story earlier today. LSU discovered they overpaid Brian Kelly $1 million.
But only after a year. So LSU's got a better accounting department than Comcast does.
I was going to bring that up.
Although it is the state of Louisiana, and I don't think anybody needs to go too far back in history to see the disasters they've had in state government. But, I guess they just paid him all his bonuses that he could have gotten, even though he didn't hit any of those bonuses. Maybe the computers just assumed that LSU was right back on track, even with their very solid season. I don't know. That's kind of what I mean. I've never once been overpaid accidentally. It'd be nice. I mean, even if I had to pay it back, it would just be nice to see that check.
Yeah, it would. That'd be great.
Yeah, but then you can't use it.
I mean, you think he's not going to use it?
They'll figure a way for that to morph into whatever.
I think he
road.
probably just gets it. I don't think they're going to make too much of a hassle about it. I think that they'll just give him the money and be like, "Oops," and let's just try not to do that again. I don't think they'll really go clawing back for it. I don't know. That's just my stance on it. But hey,
you're making $10 million a year.
I mean, what's another $1 million? Yeah. But to most people that would matter. To him, probably not so much, or LSU not so much. But good for him if in fact he does get that, and just kind of weird on the heels of that Pac-12 story.
It's why I brought it up. By the way, LSU released a statement. The management. Head football coach have enacted an adjusted payment schedule, so the amount of the overpayment will be recouped by the conclusion of the fiscal year of 2023. UCLA headed to the Big Ten, right? One of the reasons is because they've had a lot of debt. UCLA's athletic department posted a deficit of $28 million during the 2022 fiscal year. Now, Tony Altimore's told us before, they really don't. They're fine. But down from what was $62.5 million the previous fiscal year. Nonetheless, that makes a 4-year shortfall. This is Ben Bolts, who we've had on the show, of $130 million as the Bruins prepare for the Big Ten.
Well, yeah, it's one of the reasons UCLA didn't have to probably think long once the phone rang. It was, hey, would you like to come to the Big Ten? Yes. I mean, that was probably as fast as it was because they know that the TV deal was going to be better. They knew that everything was going to be better, and so that they could pump more money into their athletic department, which is in the red. It's a little bit university in the red, business in the red, you as a normal person in the red are all kind of different things. And it certainly works differently in academia and athletic department-wise because you can kind of get out of that hole a little bit faster, but it doesn't mean that you don't need to stop losing money. And that's why UCLA is doing you can go from losing money and having to deal with this or to, moving that, away. They're also getting $65 million from Under Armour to help cut that down. So as well, thanks to Tony for that.
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're in need of some money, so good for them. They'll be getting that in the Big Ten. But, yeah, we had known for a while they're not making much in terms of the revenue side of things, so it makes that move make sense, and you wonder if they didn't, get the go-ahead to make that move or the clearance to make that move, what kind of alerts that would put them in. I don't know how all the academics work behind the scenes. You hear about it, people are operating at losses, and yet, they're building new stadiums. And so I don't know how all of that works, but clearly the goal is to ultimately make money, and I don't know where UCLA was on that path, but their path is much easier now in the Big Ten. Greg Panach, appreciate the chat. 365, love your show. We do appreciate that. Last night in men's basketball, the year from hell continues for Texas Tech as West Virginia beat them soundly by double digits with Bob Huggins and the Mountaineers going into Lubbock. And the Red Raiders are winless, and it is amazing if you think about it. And, again, they lost some players like everybody did. They also had players come in last year that helped them be as good as they were, and that's kind of what it is now. What in the hell's happened at Texas Tech? They're close in some games, but right now it does, and they're capable of winning 5 or 6 games. I don't know. There's not many left, but they have just completely lost all the mojo in the men's basketball program. I think they've got a confidence problem, and when you're on a losing streak, the here we go again I think probably pops up a lot quicker. Especially West Virginia has now got their second conference win. They're trying to claw out of the 0-4 hole that they started with, and none of those teams that have started out poorly in the Big 12 or on streaks like we said over and over again are bad teams. Tech could win more games in a lot of conferences. Although just the way that it's working for them right now, I do think that, you can't just, when you think about losing Terrence Shannon and Kevin McCullough, guys who could be back with you if they're using their eligibility with you and not Terrence Shannon at Illinois and McCullough in the league at Kansas, that's hard to come back from. Even if you feel like you're pretty good with your program, those are 2 stud players they had, and they're just gone. So it's hard to just replace that. Yeah, I mean, IMAC, is hurt now, and they've lost him once again. They've had other injuries. There's also all the stuff that never really got too public that was swirling with Mark Adams that just felt like it kind of made everything sort of feel a little bit off, the off-the-court kind of chatter. And I think that's, equally contributed to their issues. You'll see some make the argument of just how young of a team that they are, that they just need to grow up some more. I've seen quite a bit of that. But I've seen quite a bit of people that feel like, yeah, they lost their little window. They lost their little magic window that seemed like it was going to be propped open for a long time. Now, granted, in this day and age, you can flip a team pretty quickly, but they went from Chris Beard and feeling like they were on the cusp of winning a national title to they're wondering when they can win a Big 12 game, and it's nearly February. So, yeah, not at all what was planned, not at all what was thought to be set up for this season. And, with Adams last year, you just felt like, hey, that, sucked that Beard left, but they've got the guy who was the real genius, right? The real genius behind, the defense and the real, you heard a lot of that. And whether that was coping mechanisms or not, there was at least some wins to, strengthen your conversation if you wanted to approach it that way. But there's none of that this year. There's none of that, and Beard's not even in the equation any longer. You got to celebrate that for like 5 seconds, like, oh, see, we ended up with the right guy after all. And now you're still, did we? Because I think that there's serious questions about, the things aside of whether it's youth or injuries or whatever. I think there's still a question, even if all those things were fine and the record was a little bit different. It's a little bit of wondering about if Mark Adams really is that guy who is the guy that will lead them, back to where they were just a couple of years ago and keep them in that area. So we'll see. But, yeah, something's just not right in the water out there. And what a fall from grace. I mean, to have probably your best opportunity remaining, or at least best opportunity in front of you for foreseeable future with that game last night, thinking like this is the game that we're going to finally win. We're finally going to get this Big 12 win. And you get blown out. You get blown out by double digits. I mean, come on, man. That's a tough pill to swallow. So,
and
yeah,
you lose Pop Isaacs maybe again.
And Pop, I mean, thinking of the injuries, yes, I didn't realize Pop Isaacs is now dinged up. So yeah, I mean they're in a world of hurt, and there's not really any sunshine on the opposite side saying like, oh well, here's what's gonna change it in the next month. So yeah, they're in a bad way right now.
They really are. Bob Huggins, who's known Adams for a long, long time, as most of them do. Trying to maybe give Adams a little bit of consoling. In a way, they talked, and it was part of the press conference. I didn't listen to that, but I saw a couple of quotes on that, and obviously it's a tough time. At 0-8, though, man, it's hard to imagine, but that's exactly where Texas Tech is. And, hey, when everybody's good, there's always got to be somebody that's part of what I call, the shrapnel. If everyone's good, then somebody who gets into a funk, you could be 0-8 or 2-6, but normally someone's got a couple of wins, and that's not the case right now. Austin Flynn is the head football coach at Deer Park High School. We mentioned the devastation around the eastern part of Houston and Pasadena, Baytown, and also Deer Park, and he joins us on 365 Sports. And, Coach, I know it's been a long night, a long day. Thanks for your time. Can you try to describe what you've seen?
Well, at the end of the day, we're very, very fortunate. Still a lot of people, including myself and my family, that don't have power, and that's probably the biggest issue. But to have zero casualties and all the things, just kind of driving down streets and some of the houses, the devastation that you see, pretty amazing with no casualties. So, thankful for that, and but at the end of the day, just watching our community and how they respond, it's pretty amazing to see.
Coach, what is the biggest need right now in Deer Park that people could donate, help out with, as you guys try to recover?
I at the end of the day, it's probably just hands on the ground. Obviously all the fences and roofs, all the debris on streets, driveways, all that type of stuff is probably the biggest need that we have. Beyond that, it's the power, and certainly our local leaders and Centerpoint, I think, have done a great job of what I've seen of a lot of the trucks that are out here already. But beyond that, it's obviously just the food, bottled water, stuff like that with the people that were without power. Still today, 40, really over 2 days now. But so that's probably the biggest need: the food, the water.
So the devastation is there. I've seen the pictures. We've put up a couple of them here on the show here we have on YouTube. Have you ever seen anything like this before? I know that area has been hit before, the hurricane damage, the flooding, etc. Have you ever seen anything like it?
I've never seen something like this before. I mean, obviously, we always deal with the hurricane, so we're well versed in that. But I think somebody had said, and you'll have to check me on this, but this is the first tornado that's hit kind of the Houston area, maybe ever. But I coached in Iowa, and I played in Iowa for 12 years of my life, and kind of that tornado alley. My in-laws live in Oklahoma. You see pictures. I've never been anything near like this, and how fast this kind of happened, and you don't really understand it till you actually go through it type thing. You don't think that it's going to happen to you, but at the time it's just kind of chaos, and you lose cell phone service, and you can't call your wives, your families. That was probably the toughest part, and then not knowing where your kids are. Right in the middle of the school when kids are kind of getting out. I've got my youngest is in elementary. And my oldest is in a junior high, so trying to coordinate that. I couldn't get a hold of my wife and trying to go pick them up, but not understanding where they're at. I get home finally, just streets that you couldn't get down with power lines in, trees down. So you're trying to navigate to try to get home and try to figure out. That's the stuff that you just don't realize what people go through when stuff like this happens. And again, you may look at it and say, "Oh, that'll never happen to me," but it's a hopefully once in a lifetime experience that we go through here.
So the rallying cry is all hands on deck, right? Everyone just trying to do whatever. School right now, you just try to help lift things, move things, whatever.
That's right, and we've got a small community here, a small town that's in Deer Park, relative to the Houston area, but. That's what makes this place so great, special. At the end of the day, I can't even describe. And it's not just our football players or our school kids. I mean, everybody's out in the streets helping the neighbors. And that's the type of stuff that you love about this city and what makes this place so special. And again, going back to it, we just it's the rally cry like that you just said. We'll try to get back to normalcy as fast as we can and learn from this and hopefully nothing like this happens again.
Austin, I was going to put this up obviously on our Twitter social pages, social media, and we'll put the segment up as well. You're not going to give your number out, but you need water and you need manpower. Is that what you said are the one and two things you need the most? Is there someone, if somebody wants to contact you, who should they? Just the local emergency services?
Yes, sir. The local Red Cross is probably the easiest, broadest thing that I think they've done a good job of coordinating. And we're trying to do that as well. We haven't had school the last 2 days and just got word that we won't have it tomorrow. So we've got a big meeting on 12:30 tomorrow that we're going to try to see if we can get a kind of coordinated effort. If anybody else that needs a little bit more help, but as of now, I'd say the Red Cross, our local Red Cross area, Salvation Army, would be the best, way to contribute.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time, and we'll try to help you as much as we can. Thank you for your time, and good luck with it.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Austin Flynn, the head football coach at Deer Park. You always hear that, water. You need water because a lot of times the water lines or whatever, the damaged, sewage, whatever else, and water and manpower. Mm-hmm. That's what you want. And so, again, if you want, contact the local Red Cross in those particular cities, Pasadena, Baytown, Deer Park, in that area, and they'll try to help you help them, which they absolutely need. The pictures were – I didn't even know it had happened until Katie Rader had put that up. And this is – that's the houses, just like you would think when a tornado goes ripping through an area. And so good luck with their recovery as well. All right, we have a lot to get to. Jay Billis probably is, you've got a lot of different analysts. We've had Seth Greenberg of ESPN, but Jay Billis had a chance to visit with him earlier today about many things, including the Big 12, and then also his thoughts about if he was the NCAA czar for a day. Now, not everybody agrees with him, but what would he do? And he gave us a pretty, I think, insightful and even, in his opinion, how to fix the problem. And it's something that, it made sense to me as well. So that is around the corner. This is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on for the life of your vehicle, for a great deal and for great customer service as well. I didn't buy my car originally at Richard Carr, but ever since I got to know the folks over there a little bit better, and I've had my car over there a couple of times for repairs, I can tell you 100% that the next time I go shopping for a vehicle, which hopefully is not too soon, but when I do, that will be the place that I go. And right now, if you are in the market for a car, whether it be new or pre-owned, they have a Texas-size selection, over 150 vehicles on the lot and ready to drive home today. Dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot, and qualified buyers can get special financing on 2023 GMC Sierra trucks, special financing as well on GMC Terrain SUVs or the entire lineup of Buick SUVs in stock. And when it comes to the Sierra, you're looking at a truck that offers best-in-class towing, unsurpassed strength, premium comfort. Again, 2.9% financing, no payments for 90 days. Just one of the many offers that you can talk to the good folks over there about. And if you're not looking to buy new, so the Sierra's maybe not in your vision of what you're going to be on the road in the future, that's okay. They have 80 quality pre-owned cars and trucks in stock, many of those under $20,000, affordable, thoroughly inspected, ready to finance for almost any credit rating. They have quality vehicles ready to drive today. And if you're not even looking for a vehicle, period, you're just looking for some great customer service and to get some great upkeep on your car, truck, or SUV, you just want to drive it a little bit longer, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. So check out the dealership that's been in business for 23 years in Central Texas, a dealership that's built a reputation as the people that you can count on, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcarr.com. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
All right, we're back. Jay Billis will join us here momentarily, ESPN college basketball analyst. The Big 12 baseball, pretty good, right? Football conference was pretty strong, and then, of course, basketball, we know, is at a very high elite level. The coaches poll came out today, the Big 12 coaches poll, with TCU at number one. They're the defending, in fact, two-time defending regular season conference champions. Texas Tech 3. Texas, who went to the College World Series along with 4 and 5, Texas and Oklahoma are there in the rankings. West Virginia, Kansas State, Baylor after Kansas. Baylor with new first-year head coach Mitch Thompson, who may be the first year there's a struggle or two. Eventually, you would think, because of his success and also his knowledge of the Big 12 when he was at Baylor before, might be able to get them from out of what is the last spot in the Big 12 in baseball.
Yeah, I don't think if you even ask Mitch right now, he really completely knows what he has, because he stepped in and like taking over a team in the era of the transfer portal when they had a few draft picks and guys transfer and all that. He's essentially, I think the way you have to look at it, almost starting from totally scratch. With this Baylor roster. I mean, there are holdovers for sure, but yeah, I don't think he's got to see them probably play some other guys, and they've had stuff throughout the winter and fall, but he will do well, and he will be able to go find not only the best talent around the high schools, but I mean, he's one of the most successful JUCO coaches in the country coming in, so he'll know how to get into some of that JUCO depth, some of those places that maybe others don't know or that he might have an in on. So I think it'll be fine there. TCU, pretty impressive that you lose Jim Schlossnagle and don't really miss a beat. They've done well with Kirk Saarloos as their head coach and keep rolling along. So it's a really good athletic year right now for the Horned Frogs, and Oklahoma State should be good again. I've always wondered how they were going to adjust when they kind of either they build a new ballpark or they remodel the other one that doesn't have the fence that's 212 feet away. It seems like that Pete Incavie hit all those home runs over, but it should be an interesting lead in the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, I mean, for TCU, they are having a good year. Just wonder how they finish in a lot of these sports. With football, it was kind of weren't there at the very end. It was still a great year, all-time memorable year, but yeah, it's all about ultimately how you finish and what you walk away with. And so, yeah, they've had a really good season, as far as the fall calendar goes, and now they're set up to have a really nice spring as well. So you just wonder, what all they collect hardware-wise and finish with. So if you're a TCU fan, definitely embrace and enjoy this ride that you've been on, because as we've seen with other places, like it might seem like, oh, well, this is just how it's always going to be, or this is how it's going to be for the next 5 years. We're just going to be constantly competing, and that's not really how it works. No matter how well you're set up, maybe if you're specifically something like Georgia football or Alabama football. But even then you see how wacky the expectations get. But it's hard to get good, and it's even harder to stay good. And when I mean good, I mean like elite good. And right now they've got a lot of programs that are in or touching that elite territory. And so definitely enjoy that if you're a Frog fan. But I'm very curious to see, how Mitch Thompson does. I don't know about, I'm not surprised to see them dead last, but I don't know that they necessarily finish there. I really think it's a wild card on how good they're actually going to be, because it's just so many unknowns as far as Mitch Thompson coming in. We know about him, know he was at Baylor previously, but I don't know what to make of his roster. I don't know how it stacks up with the rest of the Big 12 and what they have at their disposal. So they had to rework a lot. Like you said, there are some holdovers, but it feels good that there's kind of this fresh start. All due respect to Steve Rodriguez, who's now on the Texas staff. Mm-hmm. He was a good coach and created some excitement, especially early on, but it did feel like the last couple of years of his tenure is just sort of like it was just there. basically. And, there wasn't really any sort of palpable buzz or, oh, baseball season's coming, and there was none of that. And at a time, too, when everybody, we were having sort of a similar run to TCU just a year ago. We're like, hey, football was great, and basketball is awesome, and then baseball got there. And this is sort of like, not really the whole lot to get too excited about. So hopefully that changes and Mitch brings back some of that excitement that Steve had just a couple years ago. It went away, and so I think with Mitch, based on the pictures we've seen on Twitter of him going and making these little stops, like in Houston or wherever, and seeing former players, there's an excitement because of the familiarity there from former players especially. Like, oh, Mitch is back, and we've been hearing that for years about he was the missing piece and they needed him back, and now he's back. So now we'll see, what Mitch Thompson can do as the leader of the Bears.
Yeah, COVID got Baylor really 2 years in a row.
That deserves to be mentioned, yes.
Because they had, the year they're going into, COVID, they got canceled. I think that he had the best roster that he had in the whole time. They're ready and raring to go. And then nobody played baseball outside. I mean, maybe a couple of weeks that whole season.
Didn't they that same year, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know someone will, didn't they have a great run in Houston? Did they ever get to that point?
I don't think so. I think they were about to maybe, they didn't play that much. I mean, everything got canceled in March, so they had played a little bit and looked, good. Everybody had played, and then everything was canceled. And then the next year they get back, they're not quite as good. Obviously, you lose some pieces off of that team. People deciding to go, pro when they can, and after COVID move on in their careers, whatever it was. But they had a shot at the end of the year. But then the last 2.5, 3 weeks, they had a COVID outbreak on the team, and it cost them even playing in the Big 12 tournament and all that stuff. So they had to move on from there. So then he comes back in next year, and any buzz he had started to generate in 2019, 2020, and 2021 ate up like Pac-Man eating dots, and it just kind of.
And that's fair. I mean, because there was just a lack of anything really remotely excitable about them the last couple of years of his tenure, and I think that's what ultimately led, amongst whatever else, to his departure, dismissal, what have you. But I mean that's definitely got to be accounted for, the COVID stretch, because that was damaging, no doubt about it.
2020, they went to Houston. They went into the early part of March and beat Missouri, beat LSU, and beat Arkansas, the 11th and 6th ranked teams in the country, to sweep that Houston Classic, the Shriners Hospital for Children's College Classic at Minute Maid. And then then there's some non-conference games and much more. And then next thing they were shut down after that. That's when the season was canceled, March the 13th. They didn't play again. But they did have great success in one hell of a baseball tournament that is down in Houston.
Speaking of, we were just talking a few minutes ago about how ready is Texas Tech for baseball season, the way basketball's going.
The funniest thing I saw, and again, I understand Kansas will be okay in basketball, but I saw some responses to the loss Monday night, and somebody actually, this is how you have to have a sense of humor. Well, the college football season's only about 7 or 8 months away.
Oh, for Kansas. Yeah.
I love it, because that's what used to be the opposite back early in September. Well, they'll start playing basketball in November. So I thought that was great. It's funny, sense of humor, if you can enjoy that a little bit. I did. All right, when we come back, Jay Billis, ESPN college basketball analyst. How many teams in America does he think really have a legitimate chance of not winning 2 or 3 games in the tournament, but winning 6 to win it all? Also, the Big 12 and the buzzsaw. His thoughts about Houston. The loss to Temple, that's a blip on the radar. They'll be fine. His thoughts about Kelvin Sampson in Houston, among other particular items in the Big 12. And his thoughts about if, in fact, he led the NCAA or college athletics in general for one day, what would he suggest or what would he do? All of that and more next. 365 Sports with ESPN's Jay Billis. And this is 365 Sports. All right, the Waco Family and Faith International Film Festival continues, or it actually is starting up. Their first event coming up on February the 1st, which is, of course, next, Tuesday. From 7 until 9, Oza Motley will have a concert. Grammy Award-winning band Oza Motley will have a concert. Tickets are on sale right now. Seating is limited. It will be performed at the Pavilion Event Center And if you can go to online at discoverwoodway.com and buy tickets, but you could also go by the pavilion, the Carlene Bright Arboretum, and ask them as well. Single tickets are $30. There's a sponsorship tables available for various prices as well. Proceeds from the event are going to the G.B. Lindsay Family Charitable Fund. Come kick off the 4th annual Waco Family and Faith International Film Festival, the Pavilion Event Center in Woodway on February the 1st. Grammy Award-winning band Oza Motley will perform, and for tickets, go to discoverwoodway.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of health care while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of health care has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and you know, I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We're now joined by ESPN college basketball analyst. College game day, of course, was in Waco on Monday for Baylor's win against Kansas. Jay Billis. Jay, as always, thanks for your time. Do you feel like this year in college basketball it's similar to last year where maybe 8 to 10 teams are good enough to win the national title?
Yeah, last year about this time I thought it was 8. And frankly, at this time last year, I didn't think Kansas was one of those 8. I certainly didn't think North Carolina was one. But there's still a long way to go. So, teams are going to get better. And, what they've done to this point is an indication of sort of their accomplishments, but it's not to this point, but it's not necessarily what they're capable of in the future. So I think, Kansas is better than they've showed over the last several games. I think North Carolina, again, is better than they've showed. But I don't see, I think there are a bunch of teams that can, win 4 games in a particular bracket and make a Final Four. But winning 6 is a different deal. And so I still think there are only 8 or 9 teams that I would project to be able to do that. But again, it's still early. There's a long way to go. And some of these teams have new pieces, and they're not freshman new pieces. So, with older players in some of these spots, I think they can make some bigger jumps.
Baylor was in an 0-3, I guess, gutter, really, in the Big 12, which is hard to come back from it. They've won 5 in a row, and including Monday night. They have Alabama, then Texas coming up. That won't be easy, but nothing in the conference is easy. From what you saw Monday night, what do they need to do better moving forward?
I think the key for Baylor is going to be continue to improve on the defensive end. I mean, I think they have shown that they can be a good defensive team, but it hasn't been a strength. And in years past, it's been a strength. And it's been something that you talked about first. How are you going to get the ball up against, Davion Mitchell or something like that, and Jared Butler, and how are you going to score? And, this year teams can punch back. But because Baylor is so proficient on the offensive end, they've got so many guards that can get their own shot. Putting points on the board isn't the issue. It's can you defend and rebound at a high level in this super physical conference, and just at large in college basketball, it's just ridiculously physical. So you got to be able to match that physicality, especially on the defensive.
Is the Big 12 just like a battering ram?
There's no bottom to the league that I can see. I know that Texas Tech hasn't been playing well. They're still capable. Most other leagues that I see have teams at the bottom of the league that are kind of a layup win. And it doesn't mean that you can't lose if you play horribly, but you have to play horribly. And, if you play well, you're going to win. But the Big 12 has, I'd say 8 of the 10 teams, maybe even 9. If you don't play well, you're not going to win. And that's and when you catch teams is important too. You might catch a team coming off road games and all that, but it seems like, every game somebody's lining up, desperate and angry after a loss or two when they played pretty well. And there's really nowhere that I can see in the league where you get healthy. If you're an ACC team, you play Louisville, you're going to win. You play Boston College, you're probably going to win. But in the Big 12, that's not the case.
Does that also make what Scott did while the schedule was going and you don't have many practices, as you well know as a former player, in between games, to go from 0-3 to 5-3? How difficult can that be?
Sometimes it's better when you don't practice.
Okay.
You go from game to game. The more time you have to practice, sometimes the more times the coaches have to beat you up. And I know Scott doesn't do that, but you can dread practice when you're in a losing skid. So it's nice to get out and play. That's why for me, the best time as a player, the best time of year was always the ACC tournament, because the coaches couldn't overload you during it because they didn't want to wear you out. And it's oddly enough, we played better.
TCU is obviously a dynamic with what they've done with Jamie Dixon, hammered Kansas over the weekend, and are putting up big numbers. But in order, how would you describe these stories as maybe the best? Jerome Tang at Kansas State, what Iowa State's doing with TJ, and also Rodney Terry, how he's kept Texas not just afloat, but actually continuing to succeed.
I don't know. It depends on what your sensibilities are. I mean, obviously in Waco, Jerome Tang and Kansas State are going to be the lead story because of how well you know Jerome and the job that he's done there. And with some new pieces and then some older pieces that, I didn't anticipate Marquise Noel being this good this year. I mean, I watched him play, and, I wasn't projecting him to be a 20-point-a-game guy that was going to be so dynamic. I knew TCU was going to be good. I just didn't think they would be as fast-paced as they are. They get up and down the floor a lot better than they did last year. And, they're one of the quicker tempos in the league. And, I think they're top 50 in the country in tempo. And that's a departure for Jamie Dixon. He's not always been more of a fast break oriented guy. It's not like they turned him down, but they weren't pushing it after makes like they do now. So he's taken advantage of the team speed. Texas obviously, unfortunate situation, but they got players, man. So, it's nice that for Rodney that it's been somewhat seamless and those guys are staying focused, but they're an older team and you expect that with an older team.
Jay, the way that college basketball, I know there are times that the game changes. Is it still a guard-oriented team that wins the title? No, Baycott at North Carolina. Kansas doesn't have that big man this year. Is it still whoever has the guards wins?
No, you have to have good guard play, but balanced teams win. And, when was the last time we said, boy, that team full of good guards and lousy big men won the championship? It doesn't happen. And you have to have a good roster overall in order to win. And you may have teams that only go 7 deep that can do it, but you're gonna have to be able to score and guard in the post and protect the rim. And obviously you're gonna have to have capable guards. But you saw Kansas win the national championship last year, and it was their guards weren't their leading scorers. So you certainly want good guards. I mean, I was counting Ochai Agbaji as a wing rather than a guard. But there are a lot of narratives that come out like defense wins championships, and if you can't score, you can't win either. And there's never been a shutout in basketball, so defense is an important factor, and there aren't many lousy defensive teams that win. You can win. I think early on in the tournament, you can have some hot guards and make threes and win a game or two, or do maybe what St. Peter's did last year and kind of get hot, because St. Peter's didn't show that throughout the year that they were that kind of team. But they did it at the end of the year. But when they got caught playing against somebody that had real strength inside, they got blown out. And so guards aren't the be-all and end-all. You better have both.
What are your thoughts about Houston? They've been right at the top. Obviously, had the stunning loss to Temple. People are going to have bad nights. But your thoughts about Kelvin Sampson? They've been knocking on the door, and they look like they're knocking on that door again now.
Yeah, I mean, Houston's got a great program, and they're top 10 in offense and defense. They're they've got another team that it gets a lot of second shots, which obviously puts their numbers up. They're not a high free throw volume team, and I tend to think that's an important factor, but they defend so well and they're so physical that they get you playing their way at their tempo, and it's not a fast tempo, man. It's going to be a half court game, and you're not going to score anything easy off them. They're pretty good taking care of the ball, so they don't give you a lot of runouts. They don't give you a ton of second shots. They're a good defensive rebounding team. They clean up their defensive possessions with a rebound. Their guards rebound pretty well. And they've got a legit star caliber player in Marcus Sasser. And they've got, Jarris Walker, even though he's a freshman, he's an NBA player. And if you don't have guys that are draftable, you tend to limit your chances of winning the whole thing. I think you have to have guys that are potential pros to be there, but at least be pros or potential pros. I mean, you look back over the list of teams that win, and the NBA is a factor. But yeah, I like Houston a lot. They're they go through some offensive droughts here and there. They're not a great free throw shooting team, which is a little bit of a concern in close games. But other than that, they seem to have it all.
Well, your thoughts, and you've always been very outspoken about college athletics, that things you believe in are things that should be done differently. The NCAA, now there's all of this, like NIL and transfer portal. If you were the czar, if you took over college basketball, or even the NCAA if you ever wanted to, what would you do to fix what might be ailing them, if anything?
Most of the problems, the quote-unquote problems that exist in college sports, are self-inflicted and imagined. And right now, they imagine that NIL is a problem or players getting money is a problem. It's not a problem. The problem is they're restricting players to just NIL. And by doing so, they're violating federal antitrust law, and they know it. That's why they hired former Governor Charlie Baker as the new president of the NCAA to replace Mark Emmert, because they want to lobby Congress for an antitrust exemption. And, they keep talking about, all these lawsuits and all that. Well, the best way to avoid lawsuits is quit violating the law. And they're violating the law, and they know it. And they're asking Congress to allow them to continue to violate the law with a special exemption, and I don't think they're going to get it. So I would just, eliminate the, quote-unquote amateurism restriction and stop all this nonsense and let the players participate in the business. And if one school doesn't want to pay players, or they want to pay them less than another school, then have at it, just like you do with coaches and administrators and employees. Not everybody pays their coach $9 million a year. Some do, but not everybody does. And we still have great competition on the field and on the floor. So this is not a big deal. And just let the schools do essentially what they want with regard to the players, just like they do what they want with facilities. They do what they want with their staffs. And I think you'll see different decisions being made. If talent acquisition now includes as a factor money, you're going to see different decisions made with money. You won't see these mega Taj Mahal facilities built. They'll still be nice, but they won't be like they have been to attract players, because they'll be able to attract them with a financial offer. And you won't see these Pentagon-sized athletic departments. Every time you turn around, you see more suits than uniforms. And it's unnecessary, but they do it because they have a lot of money to spend, and they spend it on staff rather than on players. And if you opened it up, the market would be more efficient, and you'd see spending change. And administrators don't like that, because some of their jobs might be eliminated. If the NCAA were running banks, we'd still have thousands of bank tellers instead of ATMs, and none of that makes any sense. But that's the first thing I'd do, and I think you'd see the business run more efficiently.
Last question for you. You watch college basketball quite a bit. Obviously, that's part of what you do. You love it, and you also talk about it. How often are you watching a game, or are you watching clips or things that you have at your disposal to get ready for any kind of segment you do on ESPN or any kind of game broadcast?
It's basically all I do. It's not, I don't want to say it's every waking hour, because I have to get on airplanes and rental cars and stuff like that. But, just before we got on the horn now, I was watching Kentucky. I've watched their last 3 games, and I've done the same thing with Kansas, and because I've got them this weekend. But I have the same scouting service that every NBA and college team has, called Synergy. And so I watch that all the time. And then I watch games at night, but I think it's more efficient for me to watch it where I can stop it. I can watch, the last 20 turnovers or the last 15 pull-up jumpers by Antonio Reeves or something like that. So it gives me a pretty good feel. Look, the one luxury I have in the film I watch is I don't have to stop these things. I watch it to appreciate it and do my best to try to explain it when it's necessary. But, when I was an assistant years ago, you watch film trying to figure out, okay, how do we stop this? How do we deal with this and all that stuff? I don't have to do that anymore. It's kind of nice. When Scott Drew's watching film, he's trying to figure out how do we stop it.
Mm-hmm. Jay, thanks. Great to see you on Monday night. Thanks. Good luck with the Kansas and Kentucky broadcast and also the rest of the season. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Jay Billis, ESPN, right here on 365 Sports. 4 o'clock hour coming up around the corner, including Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, Paul's Top 5 in about 2 hours, a little bit less than that. And we'll also hear from Baylor freshman guard Keontae George today, a little bit after 5 o'clock. Stonewood Dental, my dentist. That's where I go to get whatever I need done with my dental work, whether it's teeth cleaning, which I'm due sometime here between, well, actually it's early next week in February, or if it's something that's like a problem, like needing a root canal, needing something because a tooth hurts, whether it's a molar or wherever it might be, top, bottom, front, or back. And Dr. Steve Childress has done that work for me, believe me, and has also helped me understand even more so, and why it took so long, I don't know. Maybe finally because I realized I was at the end of the road when it comes to my dental work, and if I didn't finally react better and longer and more consistently, that I was going to have even more problems that I'm dealing with. Like you guys know the story about the fact I had to have a couple of teeth pulled, had to get implants, and then 2 crowns. Time, energy, pain, and a little bit because I was hurting at times, and then finally it's going to cost money. And Dr. Steve Childress and his staff will do everything they can to help you out with their insurance abilities as far as the services that you might have, your insurance coverage. Stonewood Dental, elite with what they do. Customer service from the time you call or they call you for an appointment until you get your work done, whatever it is, in Robinson, Texas.
Kick off the new year at the Start Something New sales event. Get up to $2,500 in total values and 1.9% for 72 months on all new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limiteds at Allen Samuels in Waco.
I hate my job, but I don't mind getting up in the morning. I dread each day, but I can't wait to get out of bed. You ask me why, and what I'll say to you is true. Well, you can get breakfast tacos at Rudy's Barbecue. Scrambled eggs and brisket, they ain't fooling around. Salsa drap, son, they're the best in town. Barbecue for breakfast, yes, it's true. Put a smile on your morning at Rudy's Barbecue. Next in line.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com.
U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
You almost got me on the delay. I did not jump the gun, which I'm prone to do.
You know how fast you like to go. I looked at it today. I have all the opens are the same.
The billboards and liners.
The billboards and liners on 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock are all the same, depending on if there's a change. Like 5 o'clock, we have different guys from Edward Jones, and then we could have different people. Like it could be the two of us, it could be the two of you, it could be me and Craig. And so I have different liners and opens. I checked. It's less than a second on all of them.
Half a second of dead air is awful.
It's not dead air. There's music.
We are starting the 4 o'clock hour, and Max Olson not available today. It's the first week I think he said he's had off in,
25?
Probably forever. Since back when the media day started up back in July. And so he'll be back with us, we think that this time next week, because there's a lot to get into. Mickey Spagnola, 4:25, that's a little bit tentative. It might be later because the Cowboys have had a press conference and announced that Dan Quinn, it's part of the press conference, Mike McCarthy's post-mortem press conference, and it's not him, but that Dan Quinn is apparently coming back.
Yeah, and Dan Quinn and maybe his defensive staff, other than, I guess, George Edwards. I think Joe Witt Jr. is going to stay there. I'm sure Al Harris is going to stay there. But, I mean, unless he gets like a defensive coordinator job somewhere else. But Dan Quinn's going to stay with the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy, and that's great news for them. And we have not had there's only 4 jobs, or now 3 jobs open in the NFL with the Colts, Broncos, and Cardinals, because the Panthers filled theirs with Frank Reich. But Mike McCarthy was a little less committal on Kellen Moore, basically saying, look, we haven't met yet. I hope to meet with him on Friday, and his process is ongoing. But running backs coach is gone. Offensive line coach is gone. They're shaking up the offense because they've got to get over the hump. This is certainly a team that's good enough to win 12 games. It's certainly a team that's good enough to win 13 games. It is not a team that's good enough to win 14 games when that 14th game happens to be in the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, they've been again, there's a lot of schools, a lot of NFL franchises that wish they could hit 12 or 13 or whatever amount of wins in a regular season. There's a lot of teams that flounder in the playoffs. The Cowboys right now, along with Detroit and Washington, have the longest stretch without playing in a conference championship, and that was in 1991 for Detroit and Washington, in 1995 for the Cowboys. But Dan Quinn, that's a hell of a coach. He's done a hell of a job. That defense plays with their hair on fire. Rarely do they just not show up. Rarely do they just, they're just good. They're really good. They force a lot of turnovers. They have tremendous speed. But here's one of the things, and we'll get to Mickey with this as well, and I want to get back to what Jay Billis was talking about with the NCAA. But one of the things, Craig and Paul, about the Cowboys is that they're almost to a fault, very rarely, they don't like to let things go. They're not broken. You can look at whoever it is that I know, people look at Jerry or the general manager, Jerry, or Dak Prescott. They're not broken, but something is missing, but they don't like to let things go. If you keep doing it over and over again, it's not the definition of insanity, but it's close.
Well, I mean, They don't seem to mind injuries all that much, no matter when they happen. I mean, they draft guys with injuries, and sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't.
Was it Clark?
Damone Clark? Yeah, it worked out. But they drafted him in the 6th round. So, but high draft picks,
and
guys.
He eventually was able to play, but then I don't think they ever trusted him.
Yeah. What do you mean by having trouble letting things go? Like letting Amari Cooper go?
No, and then when they do, they seem to make the wrong decision. Like Kellen Moore has done okay. It's the number 1 offense. I get all that. And then you hear about they've had weapons. This year maybe they were lacking an extra weapon on the wide receiver, but they have been loaded with weapons. How many teams have a Zeke Elliott, not this year, But Zeke and Pollard, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, among others. Gallup got hurt. Tight ends galore. Offensive linemen who are Hall of Famers. And a quarterback that's pretty good. Maybe not elite, but he's pretty good.
Yeah, I think, but they don't let go of things at the right time. They seem to let go of other things at the wrong time. Or when they do, like Amari Cooper, they don't get fair market value.
They let go of DeMarcus Ware. They let him walk. Good for him. He won a Super Bowl. And they let go of DeMarco. They let go of him. They allowed DeMarco Murray to walk. And then they ended up getting whoever it was to replace him. Was it Zeke?
Eventually, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was like 15 years ago, though, like that's, I guess if you're saying it's a long-term issue or something, but, you can't keep everybody and you can't have everybody. There's moves you have to make, and some moves they've gotten right and some moves they've gotten wrong. Like, I don't really feel like there's an overriding, like, they can't make any decision. Look, they lost to a good team. They were right in the thick of it, and I think that, you in hindsight say, well, Dak could have played better. Yeah. Well, you wish you had another weapon. Yeah, but is that like an indictment on the last 25 years? I don't think so. I just think that they don't just deserve a Super Bowl.
No.
I think that's the problem is that people think that they deserve it because they're the Cowboys. And so when they don't get there, I understand that you break it down like you do any other 32 teams, but they had a damn good team set up. Like, I don't think there's like massive mismanagement going on in compare. Certain years, yes. This year, I don't think it was that. Here's
my thing, Craig. And they have drafted incredibly well. They have done really well, and yet are they blowing the opportunity again where they have the weapons and the names around them and drafting well, and it's still not enough?
I think they need to really I don't know if they ever give themselves a fair evaluation as far as how not good they are. They're good. For example, they need to just look at, okay, why are we the third best team at best in the NFC every year? Why are we the third best and not the first or second? Because that's where they're
been the first or second, but it didn't.
But it's been a long time.
Yeah.
But
No, but they have had the best record a couple of different times, but they haven't been able to finish it that way.
I think that they need to take that idea of, well, we've had the best record in the regular season. No. Why is this team stuck in the playoff mode that they are? Because the first and second best team, to me, are the ones who are
playing
in the NFC Championship game. So this year in the NFC, the first and second best teams are Philadelphia and San Francisco in whatever order that comes out, but the top two teams are that. So why are they at least third? And maybe they might be fifth some years, but why are they perpetually at best third? Not why are we wasting 14-2 seasons or whatever in the regular season? Because 14-2 in the regular season could be the result of several things. It could be the result of, kind of a lucky way the schedule fell. What they really need to assess
the division they're in.
Exactly.
That is like you're almost 5-1 automatically.
Why can San Francisco win with Brock Purdy? And we can't win. I say that. I say we. They can't win.
Said we.
I'm trying to put myself, and Dallas can't win with Dak Prescott in a similar situation. What is better about San Francisco's roster that's different about Dallas's, or the way that they do things? That's how they need to look at it, and not in the. Well, we were 13-4 in the regular season.
Is San Francisco in this weekend's game if they wouldn't have traded for Christian McCaffrey?
I don't know. Probably not. Because they went and made a big boy move.
The Rams the year before, right? Last year, the Rams made some critical moves.
Von Miller, no doubt.
Yeah.
So that might be the thing, right? That might be the thing right there.
Craig, what do you think is missing?
I don't know. I don't really give it a ton of thought, honestly. I'm not a Cowboys fan. It's been kind of the same story for 20 years. And, y'all are talking about missing and all that. They're in the final 8. They're in the final 8. They were in the Elite 8. And I know it's not the same as, emerging from a 68, team tournament. But, I don't think it's all so bad. I get that everybody's, down in their feelings because the Cowboys' Super Bowl drought continues on. But, I think we could really break them down a lot further if, they were a team that missed the playoffs or a team that wasn't even competitive. They were in the final 8. They could beat the 49ers last week if Dak just plays a little bit better or if some other area makes a couple more plays.
But they didn't.
And they didn't. And so they lost. And so, what do they need to fix? Dak needs to play better. Some other guys need to make a couple more plays. Like, I don't know. It's just not that negative to me. I mean, I get why it's building and building because fans want their Super Bowl, and they haven't had it in so long, and all of those deals. But I don't know. I don't think that they're far off. And you ask, but they didn't. Well, why didn't they? Because Dak didn't play well. He played like garbage in his last outing. Played like a guy who was in his second ever game. His eyes were so large at times when the camera would hit him. And beyond that, yeah, little things here and there. But, I mean, it's not like he was, a blowout. It's not like they didn't even make the play. I mean, they were in the final 8. So maybe if you had, Amari Cooper on this roster, maybe that was the missing piece. And maybe that's just the answer. They screwed up. They shouldn't have traded Amari Cooper, and they did. And that was a screw up. And had they had him, then things are different. I don't think it's really that much more. I don't think it's like Jerry the GM and – like the same conversations we've been having for 2 decades.
No, that's a lazy narrative.
But I do, yeah.
But here's of the 3 teams
he used to be
mentioned,
the coach. It's not the coach now.
Well, yeah. Of the 3 teams that have not been to the championship game the longest, Detroit, they've been a mess ever since then. Look, this year they made a tick up because it looks like at least they had some kind of a rhyme and a reason. Washington, an absolute dumpster fire for most every year since then. Dallas, man, they've been. I'm trying to think, what would you rather be, who they are, or a team that every once in a while, may win it all? I think you want to win it all.
Well, and look, consider, yeah,
They're
I think
never going to
do.
break it. You know what? Jerry's never going to, just say, let's break it all down. That would be foolish because they were too close, because he went through 5-11, 5-11, and 5-11, and they became irrelevant. And he's never going to want that to be the case, even if at the end it might make you a Super Bowl championship team.
Like if you look at the Rams, the defending champs, it was almost 20 years between their titles too. So the Cowboys just has been so long, and they haven't, like you said, had those ridiculous stretches where they can't seemingly point it in the right direction. They look pointed in the right direction and wrong. And I think Craig's right. It's not that Jerry the GM anymore, because it's more Will McClay and Steven that are doing those things. Jerry is kind of the figurehead now. I mean, not that he's not making decisions and doing Jerry things, but I mean, Odell Beckham Jr. is not there, and that would have been a total Jerry move. So I think that if you look at the Cowboys and the way they are constructed, it is what's that last piece that they're not doing that other people are. And I would just say that the 2 teams that are ahead of them that are in this position are more aggressive when it's time to strike, bringing in players, than the Cowboys are. I don't know if they have ever gotten over the shell shock from
Joey Galloway.
No, from being the first team that had cap nightmares. That 5-11, 5-11, 5-11, that didn't happen because Jerry doesn't have money or was in debt, but it happened because
they won 3 out of 4, and they were in search of just the one more.
Yeah,
and they had to keep on renegotiating or doing things.
And then
contracts.
The salary cap, because there was no salary cap, and then there was, and then since that point on, they have kind of lived in fear of the salary cap in a way that other teams don't. The Rams didn't. When it comes to, it's been 25 years. The other thing Jerry needs to I think that maybe he also might be trying to recapture is he wants to be the Patriots, or he wants to be what they were in the 90s. Well, that's not probably going to happen again. So
not in his lifetime.
No, and so just get your one, right? Get the one, and then see what happens after that. Don't try to build yourself up for a sustained run, because unless you have Patrick Mahomes, who comes in and is good right away, or Joe Burrow, who comes in good right away, then you're probably not going to be able to look out in the future and say, well, we can probably do this a couple times over 10, 15 years. You're going to have to get your one and then see where you are after that.
Yeah, and the Cowboys have a quarterback whose contract, because it really kicks in now, is about to have him for about, $40 million? Counting the signing bonus.
Which is actually
Trayvon Diggs due for a new deal.
Trayvon
Diggs. CeeDee Lamb due for a new deal. Tony Pollard due for a new deal.
That's
Schultz due for a new deal.
So
Schultz is
I'm just
but see,
he's
Schultz,
their best. He was their most.
He's fine.
Yeah, but
he was their safety blanket. I'm saying you let him
that's
walk.
That's fine. But he's not like must-have, is what I'm saying.
No, but he's due for a new deal.
Pollard is an interesting decision.
Yeah,
because
and now he's hurt.
I would say that the decision that undid them this season was Michael Gallup. I think re-signing Michael Gallup was a mistake, given that you knew that he wasn't going to be 100% all year long.
That's the answer. That's the answer to the question. It's not like why is it this or why? There's a bunch of other teams that haven't won Super Bowls in the last 20 years. You know, and the Cowboys aren't just because of their logo deserving of one, even though there's certain brands that seem to act that way, and they are, depending on what corner of the fan base you're looking at, one of those at times. But yeah, they made a mistake at wide receiver. There's your answer. And anything outside of that, I don't know how to break it down to the 100th level microscopically to where you see it was the practices and I don't know what they did that was all that different. They're not that different talent-wise from the teams that are still playing. Now, could they have more talent? Yes. And I think that goes back to what you just talked about and, goes back to Amari Cooper. And, you say, well, they've got all these weapons. Well, look at the other teams around them. They've got even more weapons. Or they're still trying to add what you can never have too many. They were the number one offense for back-to-back years. So it's not like they're doing it with magic. So they do have weapons. Yeah, they have weapons. So, you talk about, you've mentioned this a couple times and others have as well. It's well, how much help do you need? It's there's no end to that question. You want as much as you possibly can have. Well, you've got 2 receivers. Why do you need a third guy? That's because you want a third guy because of situations like this year or situations where you need a third guy to step up and make a play. Hey, that's why you want to go get Odell Beckham Jr. It's not just about making headlines, even though with the Cowboys they're always going to be painted that way. It's because if you look around, what did they need? You know what? Maybe they did need Odell Beckham. People want to say, it's just a name grab. No, you look at it, and maybe they did. Now, obviously, the health is a different matter, so they couldn't have used him. But on the surface, was there a need for wide receiver? Was there a need for another star wide receiver? Potentially, yeah. You could have used a guy. You could have. But, yeah, Dak didn't play well enough, and, other areas you can pinpoint. But I don't feel like they're that far off, and I don't feel like this is, oh, my gosh, what's going on in Dallas? They're right there. They just need a couple more guys to put them over that edge.
Okay, I agree with you on that. But you're about to pay your quarterback a cap hit of $35 or $40 million, whatever the number is, and renegotiate new deals with CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, and I'm sure
Micah Parsons.
And that's in another year, right? Who's going to blow up the bank because he's going to be the highest paid? He's going to be the highest paid defensive player of all time just because of timing. I wish my favorite team was at least teasing me. They can't even do that. Their best is at 8-1, which that's happened to them more often, along with even losing records along the way. Mickey Spagnuolo will join us. I'm going to text him to see if it'll be in the next segment.
I just did. So
what did he say?
I'm waiting.
Okay. All right.
But, yeah. Let's talk about Jay Billis while we're waiting on
All right.
On
Sounds
that.
good to me.
Yeah.
Jay Billis basically was saying there's nothing wrong with the NCAA or the way that it's right now with NIL or whatever. And he made comments, schools are right now spending all sorts of money on exorbitant football facilities and headquarters and locker rooms and all of that. We've even seen some of the pictures that are crazy. Now they'll just have to maybe not spend as much on those things and start to pay the football players more.
Yeah, his point was great in that don't do those things and pay them. And then he said it's not as big a problem as just let the free market decide it. And that's all well and good. I just think I only agree with him to a point. I'm like 80% there on him. I'm just curious as to what you do about everything else and the laws you have in place, for, yeah, sure, football players are going to get paid. Men's basketball players are going to get paid, but women's basketball is going to have to get paid, at least in a way that makes sense to them, I would think. Draw a lot more fans and TV numbers. And then you move on down the line of baseball is going to have to do that. And so maybe if you're happy, maybe just paying them. And if you understand, here's what the pay scale is. I'm a baseball player. I'm not a football player. I'm going to get this much a year. That's fine. Share it in the revenue. But I don't know how it's all going to work. Where does that come in where universities just kind of agree to do that and where it works around the structure in place?
Well, he brought up the salaries, which we brought up to Mac Rhodes with Heupel at $9 million a year. And, Mac, I think, was pretty transparent when he said, it's a concern. Eventually, they're trying to keep up with it with a type. They still get money, a ton of money, but you wonder in about 5 years, will there be some Power 5 schools, no matter the money, no matter the college football money, the TV money, whatever else, will there be any Power 5 schools that just say, instead of those moving up the ladder, that might want to move down the ladder? I can't imagine they would ever do that.
No, they're not going to drop their spot at the table. And, I don't know. I feel like we're just spinning wheels with the NIL thing because it's not changing. I mean, we keep have these conversations, but, well, man, when those states pass their law, okay, well, that's just not happening. Oh, well, when the NCAA intervenes, well, that's not happening. What can they do anyways? I would like to have a conversation about like what actually occurred to make something change, to then have something like different to discuss as far as that goes, because we're all saying, well, they need this or they need that or this isn't right or that's not right, and everything's just kind of staying the same. You know what I mean? Like we're kind of just going in circles.
Spacious locker rooms, each with a whirlpool and sauna, and a staff that will know your name when you walk through the front door. Elite tennis facilities and a great tennis pro in Britt Coleman. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a place you can call home, a place you can work out on your own or with 40-plus group exercise classes. It's time for you to get in shape, lose inches, get fit at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Chuck Verno, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Chuck Verno, 720 North 64th Street in Waco, 254-732-1161. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozer's and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozer's. Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
This is 365 Sports. It's time for our weekly segment with Mickey Spagnola of DallasCowboys.com.
Prescott fires, caught, Lamb, touchdown.
Brought to you by the First National Bank of Central Texas, with 5 locations to serve you.
John Machota, and we've had David Hellman. We've had many that have discussed the Cowboys this week, and Mickey Spagnola has been covering them longer than anybody. DallasCowboys.com joins us. Mike McCarthy had his press conference earlier today, the post-mortem in the playoff-ending loss in San Francisco. Mickey, thanks for your time. The Dan Quinn news is obviously great news, and was it just the opportunities out there just weren't enough for him to leave?
Yeah, you know what? I think when you look at these opportunities, and David, normally these opportunities come along because you got quarterback problems, right? And I don't know that a new head coach can solve the quarterback problem if you don't have like the first pick in the draft or the second pick in the draft, or there's a bunch of Troy Aikmans coming out in the first round. So I think from Dan Quinn's aspect. And, the same thing happened last year. You look at, this is going to be my second chance at being a head coach. And I want to make sure I get into the right situation. And I bet he looked at it and said, you know what? Everybody's kind of interested in me. If I keep doing what I'm doing as a defensive coordinator, maybe a better opportunity will arise, down the road. And it's not like I got to have this. He's already done it. So I think if you're going to do it the second time, you don't want to commit professional suicide by getting into a bad situation. So, after Mike McCarthy talked today for 32 minutes, probably the best news he could have gotten is right after he finished, when he found out that Dan Quinn had taken his name out of the 3 jobs that he had interviewed from and said, I'm coming back to the Dallas Cowboys.
Mickey, would you call him non-committal? I mean, I'm just reading it on Twitter because we're doing the show, so I didn't hear his tone or anything, but would you have called him non-committal on Kellen Moore, or is that fair at this point?
Well, he did not commit. He said he still had to talk to him, but I think there's been indications that Kellen Moore would come back. I understand what happened in the playoff game, but what happened in the playoff game prior to that? They put up 31 points on what people thought was a pretty darn good defense in Tampa Bay. And if you look at the body of work over the entire season, that 9-game stretch they had after Dak came back, they averaged 36 points a game. I would imagine he had something to do with that. I think if you start making these big final decisions on one game, I think you can get yourself in trouble. And one of the things that never comes up ever, it seems, is, maybe San Francisco was just a little bit better defensively and the Cowboys were offensively. And I know the Cowboys had a better quarterback, but if you look at how San Francisco protected Brock Purdy, and the fact that whose wide receiver core would you rather have? Because the Cowboys' second and third wide receivers really didn't do much in that game other than CeeDee Lamb. I think there was more to it than just the offensive coordinator he didn't know how to call plays. And Mike McCarthy, Kellen Moore is not an independent contractor. Mike McCarthy has been an offensive coordinator, and I'm sure he's had a say in a lot of the stuff that goes on. So everybody forgets to factor that into it. And right away, when the Cowboys lose, even if they won 12 games in back-to-back seasons, somebody's got to pay for it.
Yeah, Mickey, we were actually kind of talking about that just a little while ago. Like, why is the Super Bowl drought continuing on? And I was just kind of like, well, just San Francisco's just a little bit better, right? I mean, they made the final 8, and I know that's not what people want to hear, and that's not satisfying, but, I mean, it's not as though they were missing the playoffs like in other years or just not very good. I mean, they lost by a touchdown, but so when you look at the 2022 season and people say, why wasn't this team able to go, a step further without trying to place blame on people? What area do you look at and say, like, that was the difference in them being a step farther or closer to the Super Bowl versus how this season ended?
Yeah, Craig, I think that's a good point. And I think you first look at maybe it was just a bad matchup with San Francisco. Now they're back in the NFC title game this 2 years in a row. So they're probably pretty good. And I think that the matchup, just what I would have rather seen the Cowboys play Philadelphia again for the third time, than to have to play San Francisco. But no one helped out the Cowboys by winning a game. So the Cowboys, were the lowest seed and or the second lowest seed and had to play San Francisco. So again, the Giants kind of messed that up by, I guess they won, so they got to get to go to Philadelphia. The other thing is, when you looked at this offense, if we look at the matchup with San Francisco, I think the Cowboys ended up a wide receiver short. And then Tony Pollard gets hurt. And he was going to be a big factor in that game, although he almost played the entire first half and really wasn't that big of a factor. If you look at the numbers, everybody goes, well, he could have done this or he could have done that. So, I understand they didn't win a Super Bowl. I understand they didn't get to at least the championship game, but it wasn't a bad season. It was just one bad game.
Mickey, do you think that they will evaluate themselves overall? I mean, this is kind of more of a macro question. When they look at themselves, do they look at themselves as a team that won 12 games 2 years in a row? Or do you, I don't want to say discount the regular season, but those are kind of different circumstances? Or do they look at themselves as a team of, okay, why are we kind of stuck at third at best? What's the difference between us and those other two teams?
Well, I think the big difference it's just the big difference between them and San Francisco. They beat Philadelphia, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And don't tell me it was because they played a backup quarterback, because the first time Philadelphia beat the Cowboys, they played them with a backup quarterback, right? The Cowboys still had Cooper Rush out there. And, with 8 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, it was a 2017 game. Yeah, I just think you have to keep improving, right? You can't stand still, though. You got to improve. They need to improve at the cornerback position. They need to improve at the wide receiver position. Depending on what happens in free agency, they'll need to improve at linebacker, because both of their starting linebackers, if you're not counting Parsons as one, and I think you can, and going forward, if they find a better another pass rushing defensive end, to play him more at linebacker than at defensive end. But as it stands now, the two guys that were starter, Leighton Vander Esch was your second leading tackler after he basically missed 4 games, and Anthony Barr, who was on a 1-year deal. And then the other problem they have is at safety. Their best safety to me was Donovan Wilson, and he was in the final year of his contract. So, yeah, they've got some things to try to take care of and manage their salary cap when they're going to be pretty close to it once again.
Mickey, thank you. It ought to be an interesting offseason. The Quinn news, of course, great today, because who knows? It could have been something different. And then we'll follow the Kellen Moore story, the contract issues, and more as far as how they maneuver. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you jumping on with us when you could. I know you've had a busy afternoon.
Good to be with you guys, as always.
As always. Mickey Spagnola, DallasCowboys.com, with us on 365 Sports. Craig, you agreed with Craig on the wide receivers? Amari Cooper not being there is obvious, no question.
I just think it's that simple, though. Like, and I don't know if it's – I don't always agree with Mickey. I think sometimes he can kind of sunshine things a little bit when there are probably greater reasons to be – critical and whatnot, but I do think it's really just that simple in this case. This was a really good team. They played another really good team, and they lost by 7 points. Their quarterback threw some bad picks, and they lost a key player in the offense early on in the game. Is that game different with Tony Pollard? Can they score one more touchdown with Tony Pollard in that game, and it's at worst a tie game?
We don't know.
Because
Mickey said they hadn't done anything the first half in the first place. But he has the ability. He and CeeDee Lamb are the two guys on that team that can make an explosive play.
I know I would rather have all my best players than not have them. And so they lost one of their best players on offense, and they only mustered, 12 points when all was said and done? 19-12 was the final score, I believe. So you scored 12 points. Your quarterback didn't play very well, and you do have to have some questions about how much that will change or grow or evolve over the next few years, because he isn't going anywhere, like we mentioned. But you also factor in, Tony Pollard got knocked out, and maybe he makes that one play that springs it. What was it, the kickoff return, that if Kevontae Turpin goes like one direction different, then he breaks it loose, and boom, it's a tie game, and suddenly we're talking about a different outcome. So I know it's easy to poo-poo on the Cowboys. Shoot, I've done it a million times in my lifetime, but I think with this particular team, outside of just saying like San Francisco was this much better and the Cowboys could have played just this much better, and it's a different outcome, and it's as simple as that to me. And it's not, an indictment on Jerry or on McCarthy or, anything like that. I do feel, though, if you are going to make a criticism, because it's not their fault Tony Pollard got hurt, it's only Dak's fault, really, that he didn't play all that well. And that, again, is a question you have to wonder about moving forward is, they screwed up at wide receiver. They screwed that up. They should have had a little bit more oomph there. You can say, well, their top two is as good as top two in the league, or what? It's not the best amongst everybody, but maybe that third guy, that third wheel does help you out, and maybe next year that's what we see, but it's not like they're that far off. They were very close, and they just played a really good San Francisco team that could go on to win the Super Bowl for all we know. I know it hurts just a little bit more because of the quarterback, but it was a 7-point game.
Yeah. San Francisco, Philadelphia, and, of course, we know Cincinnati, Kansas City. They played last year with Burrow and company, headed to the Super Bowl, losing to the Rams. When we come back, off the radar, also Keontae George, Baylor freshman guard, will join us at about 5:10. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with a brand-new building, 2,500 square foot showroom with all of what they have. And now they are bigger, better, faster, and stronger when it comes to various pieces of what you need to build things, real estate or commercial. Their warehouse is massive. Their building is incredible. It now can distribute more and easier, quicker than ever before, and they've always been really good at that since 1943. Also, their new building allows them to have different lengths of what they have, whether it's tubing, etc., so you don't have to worry about that extra step of getting the tubing. Does it fit in the back of your pickup truck or your car or whatever it might be? They can cut it to specific lengths for you, so that also allows you to not have to stress about the space of what you're using to drive around in. Pioneer Steel and Pipe since 1943. The Pioneer Boys, pioneerboys.com.
TFNB, your bank for life, is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new 3 Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning 3 Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or CreateACommotion.com.
All right, welcome back into 365 Sports. Time for a little Off the Radar and taking a look at some stories that are off our normal, I guess, discussions, although sometimes we'll get back into, college football as it sees fit and some Cowboys, although we just addressed that, so I'll not, really spend much time there. But bunch of assistants not returning. We do know, however, Dan Quinn is coming back, so that's very notable given, how successful he's been so far in silver and blue. That's one of the bigger notes today in the NFL, but not the only one, as a very interesting hire was made out in Carolina. They found their head coach to replace Matt Rule, as they obviously canned him during the middle of the season and, went on to have a pretty successful run, quite frankly. I mean, they did a tremendous job going from one of the teams that were probably the laughing stock in so many ways of the league and having to fire a coach in the middle of the year to, sitting there and actually being pretty dang competitive down the stretch to the point where you wondered if the Panthers had already found their head coach in their interim, in Steve Wilks. He did a great job, but as we learned today, not good enough of a job for Panthers owner David Tepper, who, swung big the last time with Matt Rule, and we heard so much about what a great owner he is and all the things they had in store and this and that. I'm not sure if Matt Rule feels the same way now post Steve Wilks, but regardless, the man who will now be running the Carolina Panthers is Frank Reich. That is the direction that Carolina decides to go. So Frank Reich, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers, interim Steve Wilks. I've already seen, people like, man, it'd be great if we could keep him on. But, I mean, the likelihood of that after not getting the job and after doing a pretty good job as the interim seemed to be very slim. I don't know that most people in that situation would be looking to stick around. But very interesting because Frank Reich was, if you'll remember, fired 9 games in to this past season. They are in Indianapolis and had to sit out a little while, but now the head man for the Panthers. So what are y'all's thoughts on Frank Reich in Carolina?
I wonder what...
Did that scratch your itch?
Not waiting for me.
If I was a Panthers fan, seeing as he was unsuccessful in Indianapolis, but then I think one of the things that can kind of throw you off, right, is that, it's a little bit of a mess in Indianapolis overall. Like they fire Frank Reich, and instead of elevating somebody on the staff, they're like, hey, Jeff Saturday,
how'd that work out?
You came to training camp and did a Zoom with us. Like, you're the coach now, and didn't really work out that great for him. So maybe you give Frank Reich the benefit of the doubt. I still think he can probably be a pretty good head coach in the league. I have questions about the ownership in Carolina, and honestly, I have questions about the ownership in most of professional sports. There's only certain groups of people who seem to really do it well. Just because you're successful in one business does not mean you're going to do it in the other. Ask Elon Musk, right? So you can have all the money in the world and, some things are great and some things are not, and then you move on. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Panthers. It doesn't make me as excited as some of the other young coaches out there that would have been interesting. I'm very curious to see what happens with the Cardinals, but we'll see. Best of luck to him. I've always kind of liked Frank Reich, so I hope.
He was an offensive coordinator that helped win a Super Bowl. He's been around for a long time, played the game. He's 40-33-1 as a coach. It's not bad. In the NFL, a 500 record or better is really actually, I think, more rare than it is the exception. And but, I mean, it didn't scratch my itch. I wonder if Frank Wright had been at Carolina and he was fired, would they have hired Steve Wilkes if he was up for the job?
I don't know. I would have hired Steve Wilkes. Yeah.
I doubt
it. I like, I would have hired Steve Wilkes. Again, another ownership. The Bidwells are not famous for doing it great.
Yeah.
So here they are hiring another coach again. So
yeah, well, Wilkes' attorney has been very outspoken about what he perceives, and others have touched on as a race problem in the NFL when it comes to hiring coaches. He pointed to Wilkes having a year in Arizona and getting replaced by Cliff Kingsbury, and now finishing out this Carolina year, he gets replaced by Frank Reich. And some people will argue that, or I imagine there's probably some section that will roll their eyes, but there's every year this offseason rolls around, and you do get more and more stunned, I think, by just the lack of diversity despite attempts from the league to try and curb some of that, right? I mean, it's just, I'm not necessarily saying like, well, why doesn't this guy have a job? But it does make you wonder, like, what could Steve Wilkes have done differently that would have gotten him that job, right? I mean, could he have won another game and that would have been the deciding factor? So I know as far as, that corner of the conversation, it's a massive disappointment. And yeah, we'll see what happens with Steve Wilkes, but his attorney is not happy. I mean, I don't think that really results in anything, but I'm sure that's got to be a bummer. And that team seemed to love him too. I mean, I'm sure that I haven't looked around for Panthers Twitter, but I would imagine there's probably some outpouring of disappointment as far as all of that goes. Meanwhile, the Jets have hired Nathaniel Hackett as their new offensive coordinator. He was fired by the Broncos as their head coach last season. The Broncos were absolutely atrocious, in particular offensively, with Russell Wilson just not at all being what he was supposed to be when they acquired him. So now Nathaniel Hackett off the job line, and now the offensive coordinator of the Jets. So does that inspire you if you were a New York Jets fan?
Not necessarily. I mean, he was a good offensive coordinator, but he had Aaron Rodgers. Now, Aaron Rodgers had his worst season without Nathaniel Hackett, and Nathaniel Hackett just had his worst season without Aaron Rodgers. Jack brought up this point earlier, like, do they have to be married for them to both be successful at this point in their careers? And if the Jets are doing that to try to get another erstwhile Packers quarterback, then more power to them. But they also have some money invested in a draft pick invested in Zach Wilson. So he's not that too deep into his career where you just want to do that again like you did with Sam Darnold. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see. I mean, he's head coaching record notwithstanding. I mean, he had some great results, but how much of that was him? How much of Aaron Rodgers? And, the back-to-back MVPs. So something's there.
Yeah, something's there, but something was definitely not there last year. And so that's, I think, the part that brings it down a little. If you're on the Jets side of things as a fan, you hope, it was more of his OC days and a lot less of what we saw this past year. Just a couple more notes because I know we got Keontae George coming up. We're speaking about a lack of diversity in NFL head coaching. The Astros hired Braves Vice President Dana Brown, the only black general manager in Major League Baseball. So that became official today. He replaces James Click, who got fired after the Astros won the 2022 World Series. So a promotion for Dana Brown in the organization. He had been previously with the Atlanta Braves, VP of Scouting as their new general manager, VP of Scouting. So he's their new general manager. They've been searching for a couple of months, and that's the news down in Houston. And then finally, I don't know how much you guys have been keeping track of this, but it is pretty interesting. I was looking at it last night, and then I saw this story today. But LeBron James is on the heels of the scoring record. Do y'all realize that?
Yeah, I saw it.
He is closing in on it. Closing in on Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, just 158 points from claiming the record. His scoring average is 27.2 points per game this season. And so, anyways, he's closing in on that, just 158 points away. He's missed 10 games this season, but it should occur, you would think, in the next month or two. We could see him breaking that record, and I know we got to roll, so there's a few things off the radar.
You got time for one or two more if you have.
That's all I got today.
Okay, all right. When we come back, Keontae George, the super freshman, the guard from Baylor. Baylor's on a 5-game winning streak. Alabama, God, I said it again. Arkansas, 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Alabama hammered Baylor last year in the SEC Challenge. So Keontae George and the Bears are hot. They've won 5 in a row. Arkansas and then Texas on Monday. His thoughts about his first year since he's out of high school. Next on 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans with a 48-foot walk-in humidor. And that humidor loaded up with all the great names and brands of cigars. My brother Robert likes to smoke E.P. Carrillo. I like Rocky Patel. Some might like Ashton, Macanudo, Cohiba, Padron. All of the brands you could imagine when it comes to the cigar business are inside that walk-in humidor. Also on top of that, they have all of what you need if you do smoke cigars, from the cutter, the humidor to put the cigars in. They even have small Pelican cases if you want to take 3, 4, or 8 of them with you somewhere on a trip, or possibly to put in your golf bag. They also have torch lighters to light them. And on top of that, VitaDreams, a CBD product that allows you and helps you fall asleep much more comfortably and relaxed without tossing and turning if there's a lot on your mind or not, and saving you about 30 minutes to maybe an hour and a half or so of sleepless nights. Don Humidor and Coffee Bean with Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. Tell them I sent you in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Start your year off at the Start Something New sales event. Get 2.9% for 72 months on new 2022 Ram 1500 crew cabs on all trim levels. That's right. Hurry. Don't wait. Offer only while supplies last at Allen Samuels in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is brought to you by Edward Jones and financial advisor Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Baylor men's basketball in a 5-game heater. 5 straight after an 0-3 start in the conference in Arkansas Saturday afternoon. Texas on the road Monday. We're now joined by freshman guard Keontae George with us on 365 Sports. Keontae, thanks for your time. What are you as a team doing differently during the 5-game winning streak than you thought maybe you had during the 3-game losing streak?
I think we just focused on, doing the things that we can control. We can control our effort, how hard we play, knowing the scout. We always preach, controlling what we can control. So, I think that's what made us take this big jump. And then, just playing as a team, playing together, we got so many weapons on this team to where, now, I feel like teams have no choice but to, try to take somebody away. But, we have so many weapons, like I said. So I kind of, feel like we're playing, really well together right now.
Keontae, you mentioned getting in that rhythm together. You've got all these practices together now. You had some injuries, especially with Adam and LJ earlier in the year, especially with 3 guards that all of you can score and all of you can ride the hot hand. How important has that been to get that rhythm to where like LJ on Monday night, just give him the ball in the first half and get out of the way and make sure nobody's in his face?
Right. Like you said, we had, a couple injuries, with Adam and LJ, and that gave guys, like me, Langston, Dale, to just show what we can do. And, we was able to build up our confidence. And, LJ's been here before, Adam's been here before, and we know what they're capable of. So they was able to come back, and we was, they seen what we was able to do, and then, we were just on rolling from there. And, like you said, LJ had a rolling against Kansas, but, Flags had a roll a couple games. Langston gets it going coming off the bench. Sometimes I have to go in. So, it just goes back to me saying we have so many weapons. Anybody can go off at any night. So that comes with us trusting each other and, ultimately, wanting to see your brother win.
Keontae, you're about halfway through this season at this point. I know, high expectations for yourself, for the team, and I think just we as people, we can just get so caught up in what has happened or what's going to happen, but just kind of sitting here in the present on the heels of this winning streak and knowing you guys are trying to keep it going, but just how much fun are you having playing the game and playing with this team?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Everybody knows, we play with a culture of joy. And, we've really embraced that this far, and, like I said, it's really fun winning, especially being able to protect home court against a really good team. And, we just want to keep it rolling. And just going back to what I said, controlling what we can control. And, we keep, focusing on that. We should be able to keep it rolling.
Keontae, some guys are not playing as much, and there's always the chance that could create some issues or drama. But Scott Drew has developed that culture of joy, and you can still help a team even if you're not getting the same minutes. Have you seen that in recent weeks?
Definitely, for sure. Just to point out the obvious, Dale hasn't been playing as much, but nobody sees what he does, off the cameras, in the back end. He's still working. All of our guys are working, even our walk-ons. We also, preach everybody being on the rope, no matter if you're playing or not. You want to show high energy. You want to show that you're engaged, make sure you know the scout so you can help the people on the floor. That just comes with, embracing our, our culture of joy. So, it's been really, really fun.
Keontae, you're obviously a very confident shooter. We know that about you. We know about your game. But what's it like in those moments where you are on that heat check, like you are just draining them all? Everything's going in. What is the feeling for you like personally when you just know if it hits my hands, it's going in the bucket?
Right. For me personally, I think it's just a really cool moment. As a kid, as myself, I really dreamed about, playing on a big stage, at the collegiate level, making it to my ultimate goal, the NBA. But, just having that moment where you're going 8 straight or 13 straight or, hitting a couple shots in a row, it's kind of like, for me, it's kind of like, it gets loud, but at the same time, it's just silent. It's kind of a moment for me that just, telling myself like the work is showing. I put in so much work, into this game, and it's just, it's just showing in front of, on the cameras and, showing it to the fans. So it's a really, really lovable moment for me personally.
Keontae, the 5-game winning streak started on the heels of a couple of very close losses to K-State and to TCU, but y'all kickstarted this in Morgantown, and remember Jalen Bridges going back for the first time, and there's a bit made to do about that, but it just seems like he's been on a tear here as of late. What have you seen from Jalen and his game and just what he's doing on and off the court that's aiding you guys so well right now?
As we know Davey's he's a great player. He's shot the ball well. He hasn't been shooting well this year, but he's continuously, in the gym, putting up shots, seeing the ball through the net. Because at some point, you put so much work in, it's going to have to show. And, he hasn't got down on himself. And, for me, that's kind of one of the guys that I'm close with. And, just, keeping his head up, knowing that he got somebody beside him. But at the end of the day, we all beside him, from the coaching staff to the managers to the GAs to the players. We all been beside him, and it's been really exciting to see him get into a little groove, in these couple of games this far.
Is it fresh to play, even though Arkansas is really good, is it refreshing to play somebody else that you're not beating up on each other, at least for one game?
The 12 is really physical, and every game is really tough. Like you said, we preach 17 wins, so, we're just blessed to be able to play the game that we love, another day, playing a really good awesome team. I got a couple of childhood friends there, Anthony, like Jerome Walsh, just a few. So I wouldn't say, it's kind of relief because they're going to come in and try to beat us, and we got to protect home court. So we're going to go out there, play with effort, play hard, and, give the fans something to cheer for.
Do you look at it as this is the kind of change-up you're going to have? It's almost, this is your like little NCAA tournament preview weekend, right? Where you have a team from the SEC, and then you got to go right back in and you got to play Texas. So you're playing Arkansas, like Kansas, Arkansas, Texas, 3 games in a row. That would be kind of like an NCAA tournament weekend, wouldn't it?
Most definitely. At the end of the day, when it comes to March, we want to be at our peak. We want to be playing together really well. So this is kind of just a little test. We got a couple of days to scout them. So it'll be a really good test for us going out of our conference. We haven't played a non-conference game in a minute now. So it'll be fun to see somebody outside our conference and able to, win the challenge.
You talk about the 12 as you refer to it, and everybody talks about what a great basketball conference it is, but, you're living it right now. Is it living up to the billing of what you expected, or is it even beyond what you kind of thought it would be night in and night out?
Man, it's beyond what I've been told. Every game is a dogfight. Anybody can be beat. You see it all the time in the Big 12. So, we just want to continue to, I keep going back on it, but we just want to keep control of what we can control. As you can see, we've been preaching that so much, and it's really rubbing off, on us. So, just living in the moment, staying in the moment, and then ultimately just giving God all the glory, because without Him we would be nothing.
Keontae, when you've been on the road, I know there's some things said to players, and some of them are probably atrocious, but is there something you've heard this year that actually made you crack up or laugh?
for me, it was just, I'll probably say it wasn't towards me, but West Virginia, they said some couple foul things, to my brother Jalen. I don't want to repeat it, but it just kind of made me laugh just to see that he put all that work in at West Virginia, and he kind of makes a decision for himself, for him to be in a better situation for himself, and they kind of get on about it. So that was kind of funny. And then they kind of start going at me saying, "Oh, Keontae, you suck," and this and that. I live for those type of things. So it makes me laugh and kind of gets me fired up.
Yeah, fans can turn on you quickly, and obviously when you were 0-3, I think there were a lot of people wondering about this team. How come this team was able to stick together? And Adam Flagler, I was told that there might have been a team meeting that kind of like, hey, did that help kind of clear the air a little bit? And then you guys seemed to get kind of hot after that.
Going back, my first big game, I would say that's the one game where, they just, and, we came back home, we lost a good TCU team, and we lost to a good Kansas State team by, a possession.
Mm-hmm.
So that shows that we showed growth. And then, we had to come back to the drawing board, just see what are the things that we need to do to close these games out. And, we looked at it, and we focused on the things that we need to, get better at. And as you can see, we've been off and rolling. And that comes back from, sticking together, because it's a long season. Mm-hmm. It's a long season. If you look back, Baylor's went on, long game winning streaks. So, we did panic. It's a lot of basketball, and we just, enjoy it. We was losing. We wasn't looking at it as we was losing. It's a lesson, and we learned from the lesson, and, now we've been able to figure it out, and we've been rolling so far. So let's keep it going.
Last question for you from me, and we appreciate your time, Keontae.
Yes, sir.
Other than you, who's your biggest critic that you know?
My biggest critic, I would probably say, of course, a lot of people say her mother. My mother, she's just being a mom. My dad's on me a lot. Just as far as, just seeing where I'm at mentally, just giving me a couple things, quick pointers, because he's a pro. So he's really helped me a lot. But I'll probably say my biggest critic is probably, my girlfriend. She's watching me for, 5 years now, and she just kind of, she doesn't know the game, but she just sees, were you tired here, were you tired there, or are you not in shape? It's just little things like that. She just on me all the time, and it's kind of maybe a really good player. She's on me about getting in the gym. I'm a hard worker, but when she goes to the gym, I'm trying to go to the gym just to matter. So it's been making me better since we've been together.
That's awesome. It's good to have others who can kind of keep you straight or keep you kind of updated. And I know you're hard on yourself. Keontae, appreciate it. A great run right now. Game Saturday afternoon at 3 against Arkansas. Appreciate your time.
Yes,
enjoy the night, and have a great day.
I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for having me.
You too. Keontae George, Baylor freshman guard. Mature beyond his years, hell of a player, averaging over 17 points a game. There's been a couple of games in which the shot hasn't fallen. Was it the game at Oklahoma, which I think was critical because it's a teetering game. You get back to 3-3, and then you beat OU in a game that, I think the guards just couldn't shoot it until Flagler hit the dagger. Bridges hit a couple of daggers, and then Adam. And they won despite whether Adam has a tough night shooting or if it's Keontae or if it's Cryer or whoever else.
Yeah, they've had to figure out different ways to win than maybe they have in the past. They had such lockdown defenders before, and I really do hope that we get to see Jonathan Tchamwa at some point this year. If not, just because I would like to see this iteration of the team with his defense thrown in, because he's so good on defense that everybody else will be good on defense because of his effort and the way that down low he makes it so hard. So then guys who maybe have to do that more now because you don't have John there don't have to do it anymore, and he can make some of those plays. He's a dude who just starts a lot of fast breaks because all of a sudden he makes a great play, and the team on the fast break wasn't ready for that to go that way. And so now all of a sudden you're on a fast break back the other way and Baylor scoring. So
he reminds me of a security camera. And I mean that is that he's going to have your back. He's going to be there. In fact, if something breaks down, he'll be there.
Yeah, and it is. A security camera is a great way to talk about it because you can be on your way running and thinking you got it, and then you look over your shoulder, and then you're like, oh, man, the cops are going to get me. And that's what's going to have him. So I do hope that we get to see that, but they've had to adjust. And so they've got 3 guards who can score, and they've got 3 guards who can score that are very unselfish, including a freshman who can score. Like, he literally could press a lot of coaches if he had a bad attitude to let him. The game plan could be, let me score 40 or don't let me play
Get
at
out
all.
of my way.
Yeah,
and shot to win a game, he's always been the one that took it. And he's had at times to be able to be that guy, and at other times it's been somebody else. Really enjoyed his time with us. Girlfriend, very much a critic. His mom, of course, you get some camera time in that game, as, of course, you love to see the parents and family of players on TV.
Yeah, by the way, TJ asked how long will he play before he's in the NBA. We get to see him for about 2.5 more months.
Until whenever they end their season, whenever it is in March or the first weekend in April.
And that was the first-round pick we just talked to.
Yeah, lottery pick right there, top 15. You won't. If you want to only watch till Keontae George is picked and then turn off the NBA draft, you probably have about an hour.
Retired stockbroker, for a freshman, this young man sounds like a senior. Yes, that's what I was saying. He's mature. And, I mean, he's been interviewed for quite some time because he was such a good player, a great player and prospect, and then eventually a Baylor commit.
I think there were guys back in the day, and I'm old enough at that point to be able to say that, where LeBron was back in the day. And that's weird to think about, but it's true.
Been 20 years for him in the league. So.
Yeah, I mean, he's an old man at this point now, at this stage, but – you know, LeBron was very mature for those who don't remember. I mean, guy had his high school team playing on ESPN. I know it seems like commonplace now. It wasn't. It wasn't commonplace to see that. And, you know, I remember just the buildup of him and then Carmelo and their respective teams. Their, you know, schools were just, you know, like name brands almost, like reading Sports Illustrated when Sports Illustrated was still Sports Illustrated, you know, when it was still the magazine that you got in the same company and all of that. And, yeah, to think about, like, 17-year-old LeBron on the cover of SI and all of those things, he was dealing with a much different world than what Keontae George and guys like Keontae are dealing with. I think now they're just so much better prepared, and that's what makes LeBron's maturity even more impressive, was that he did it at a time when you weren't necessarily so used to just – social media and what comes with that, and the fact that you could create your own stardom in today's day and age with a camera on your laptop and then not to mention all of the criticism. Like, can you imagine 17-year-old LeBron or 18-year-old LeBron in Twitter landscape? Would have been crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think that the young people are just built differently nowadays and probably in a lot of ways have to be more mature in positions like his, because there is such a grand microscope on you that's so far-ranging and far-reaching, and so he's been developed really well as a player, obviously, but as a person and as a guy who's probably going to go make millions of dollars in the NBA starting here in 3-4 months. He's, like you say, wise beyond his years.
KG and Kobe kind of helped build LeBron.
They were there too.
And as a matter of fact, if you guys want to watch the USA basketball documentary that they have, LeBron and Dwayne Wade are all the guys are part of. It's great to hear the stories about, you know, we thought, like, LeBron even thought he was mature when he was young and playing on that Team USA. He thought he was. And then they were with Kobe. There's a great story how, like, the whole team went out and just got, like, partied all night long and came back, and it was like 3:45 in the morning. They're kind of hanging around the lobby, getting snacks and stuff, about to stumble back up to the room and go to sleep. And Kobe comes off the elevator to go to the weight room, and he's like, what have y'all been doing? They're like, oh, we've been out. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go to the weight room. And then they were like, oh, this is different.
Speaking of Kobe, third anniversary of his passing today. Yeah, wow. I wanted to mention that off the radar, and we ran out of time. But yeah, his third anniversary. So yeah, that was a day I'm never going to forget. But yeah, thanks to Keontae, and he's a great player, and can't wait to see how he closes out his college career and they're off to the races right now, so who knows?
Wish I'd have known that, because I would have asked him about where he was or what he thought when that moment, because I'm sure he was incredibly a fan of Kobe as young players were. Baylor Athletics segment brought to you by Richard Car Motors, Buick GMC Cadillac, people you can count on. When we come back, a couple of nuggets to get into, and also Paul's Top 5 is about 20 or so minutes away, and this is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace, what are you going to have tonight? What are you going to have? In fact, they're open until 6, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. What are you going to have this weekend? Are you going to cook in the grill? What do you need? They have it when it comes to what you would get out of a butcher's shop: beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. What you would get from a bakery, including if you wanted some sort of treats or sweets, and, of course, fresh baked bread. And on top of that, they have the Select New York Strip on sale for $5.99 a pound. A pound of frozen chili ground beef for $3.59 a pound. Maybe you're going to make some sort of a queso, like maybe dip. If you want the ground beef, they have it. Also, boneless chuck roast at $4.99 a pound. Bone-in pork chops, big thick ones at $2.05 a pound. They'll cut them the way you want them. And whole chickens at $1.39. German sausage, $3.75 a pound if you want to put those on the grill, or maybe in something you're going to cook with sausage in it. It's Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Richard Carr has the new 2023 truck or SUV you want in stock today. The versatile GMC Terrain is waiting for you. Qualified buyers get 3.9% financing and a $750 loyalty rebate for eligible GMC owners. Qualified buyers get 2.9% financing on most new 2023 GMC Sierra 1500s in stock, or 3.9% on all 2023 Buick Envision, Encore, and Enclave SUVs in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to get all the details and to drive home your new GMC or Buick today.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you. Price right, day and night. At Richard Carr in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. At Richard Carr in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. At Richard Carr in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses. When it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why we take the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott in Conroe at 936-756-7717. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
This is 365 Sports. Want more updates during the day? Follow 365 Sports YT on Twitter.
Can you imagine having the talent, the hard and work ethic to be a young man like Keontae George, who was elite at the high school level, played at IMG Academy, played in all of the various tournaments you could imagine and all the various competitions you could imagine, could go to any school he wanted. He's going to be a first-round pick in the NBA draft. And how many of us could actually, it would be great because the money, and it's great because of the fame or whatever, and some would not care about that and would probably shy away from that. To be able to be mature enough to handle it, because not everybody can.
And that's quite often the difference. Some guys, finally mature when they're in their 30s, and all of a sudden they're a good professional athlete. They've always had the talent, so people will take that chance. But some guys don't ever have it, and I think that's one thing that sometimes in the modern era. Well, I mean, it's probably always, but especially now where there is so much specialization and, pointing towards like, well, if you want to get to the NBA, then you have to do these things. If you want to get to Major League Baseball, then you have to play leagues like this. You got to be kind of all year doing all this stuff. To do all that stuff and to really have the success, like talent is one thing, but you kind of have to love it. I mean, you have to love what you do. You have to really enjoy.
Otherwise, you see the burnout or the peaking early.
You can burn yourself out when you enjoy it too. But I will always think of Davion Mitchell when I went to do my one-on-one interview with him, and I ran into Charlie Melton on the way, and I said, "Tell me something about Davion," and he said, "We have to remind him to go home. Mm-hmm. That it's he's working so hard, it's okay to take a break for a little while. We appreciate it because they know that they're always going to get max effort out of him because he loved it." And then I asked him about it. He goes, "I just love it." He goes, "I love working on basketball. We had him on during COVID, remember?" And I said, I mean, I think this is probably not as bad for you as other people because now I've told you that I'm going to let you go shoot basketballs alone in a gym and no one's going to come and bother you."
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm getting the work in." So you have to really enjoy it. Freddie Gillespie, another guy who really, granted, didn't have the talent of those other two, worked his way up because he wasn't a basketball player forever, but just worked and worked and worked and worked and enjoyed it, had fun doing it. Now, some guys don't have that, and that's fine. If you don't love it as much, then, you're not going to be Kobe. You're not going to be LeBron. You're not going to be those guys. But, it's okay. Not everybody can be.
Robert Nichols, I knew he would be a special when I saw him play in the 3-on-3 in the Olympic play. Saw him talking about Kobe. Saw him play 3-on-3 in the Olympic gold team. Kobe was special. I mean, the amount of players during that time. Paxton, who's a golfer and really good at it. That's how I practiced in golf. He loved it, and he just loved it. He was not consumed with it. 500 balls a day. Paxton, thanks for the feedback. Also, we didn't give Paxton apparently enough credit yesterday for the top 5. He nailed 4 of the 5.
I promise you today, he will get 0.
Okay, but we didn't give him credit yesterday because there was this issue we've had in the building with the company that provides the internet. And so TJ thinking that we should give Paxton more credit than we did. And because we couldn't. We're gone.
Here's the deal. If Paxton gets it today, I will have him investigated by the cops because he's clearly hacked my computer.
That can happen.
Yeah. So,
especially, it'd be hard to hack this one because it's in and out. Roger the Dodger, 500 balls a day. Yeah. And you hear about VJ Singh, who was probably as much of a grinder. And again, he's now on the Champions Tour or whatever else. Used to hear about him hitting balls like nonstop until it got dark. You heard about Ben Hogan, who used to sit there and go to the range and have blisters on his hands and just hit balls after balls after balls.
Who was the person that said the thing about the 3-on-3? Because they definitely weren't talking about Kobe. I think they were talking about Keontae.
Oh, Keontae. Okay,
yeah, Kobe wasn't in any 3-on-3.
Okay, yeah, I knew he would be special.
And he wasn't talking about
Keontae,
the Olympics. He
when
was
I
talking
see
about
him played in the 3-on-3 on the Olympic gold team.
No, he was talking about FIBA, I think, is what it was.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't on the Olympic team either. So, yeah, just for clarification's sake, definitely talking about Keontae, I believe, and talking about the FIBA 3-on-3 World Cup that they had about 2 years ago, I think is what's actually being referred to. But, yeah, Kobe, because Kobe that was a high school thing.
Yeah, he said, I'm glad you brought it up, Craig. He was talking about, Baylor's Keontae George.
Yeah, Kobe was one of those that we were talking about when he was coming out of high school. And then obviously the big draft day trade with the Hornets that, was always one of those things that you look back on. It's kind of like the Sam Bowie, Michael Jordan, that whole deal. But, yeah, I vividly remember watching the draft and not really having a great idea of who Kobe Bryant was. But I remember clear as day watching him getting drafted and knowing a little bit from what I read in old Sports Illustrated, because that's where it's basically where all the information came from on stuff like that. There wasn't, rivals and much less like 5 other incarnations of it that have broken it down the way it's broken down now. But yeah, he was a 5-star back then, that's for sure.
I wonder on draft day if the Hornets were like, all right, Lakers, you want to take this pup, we're fine. Like,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like what?
I always felt like to the Lakers, like there had to have been some sort of the NBA going. You almost thought it was a setup, but you can't do that.
Well, and if that was true, then why isn't Chris Paul or why wasn't he a Laker? There's various examples of why that's not true.
But the Lakers back then still had yet to transition out of the post-Magic era, right? So they were still trying to find their way when they got Kobe. And so, but even still, like I wonder what the Hornets said. It's not too different than I always do wonder when the Spurs called the Pacers and said, we are going to trade you George Hill, and we're going to take that pick, and we're going to take this Kawhi Leonard guy out of San Diego State. And Indiana's like, George Hill, really? Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. We need to do it. We got it. That works for us. That works for us. And then they get Kawhi Leonard. And then maybe after that point, when R.C. Buford called somebody and it popped up like, hey, this is R.C. Buford. I'm in a tunnel. I'm not going to hear you. I don't know what you're talking. I can't. Nope, click. I'm not going to make a trade with you because whoever you have your eye on, I might just try to draft myself and hope that I figure out what you're doing.
College sports note, Joey Kaufman covers Ohio State. The Ohio State Athletic Department reported revenue surpassing just $250 million during the 2022 fiscal year, according to its annual financial statement provided to the NCAA. So we saw the story earlier about at UCLA.
Well, why do you think
they're anti-UCLA?
Yeah, so that's why the Big Ten is even that much more attractive, because if you can figure out how they're doing it, then
I mean that's one of the top 5 strongest brands in college sports, bar none. And year in and year out, good in football, and where 2 losses is like a failure of a season. So, I mean, it's puzzling that the UCLA is in such deep debt. But I don't know, like I'm sure, was it like a Matt Brown or someone like that could break it down in a newsletter on, why UCLA, and I'm sure there's a story like that out there somewhere, probably in the LA Times. But I would love to know how there's that much of a disparity between 2 institutions who are playing on the same plane. Yeah. I mean, they're playing on the same level, and they're about to be in the same conference. So, I don't know if it's the Olympic sports and all that's invested into that. I mean,
well, UCLA does pretty good on the alternate stuff, too.
Yeah, but are you pouring money into something that loses money is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
is it the fact that up until recently, like, the feeling around football was, you're not raking – I mean, obviously Ohio State makes way more money on – I would imagine football and attendance and all those types of things, but that much more.
It's a record for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, the COVID year was about maybe a little bit less than half that number because of a lot of reasons.
But, Smokey, you think about it, though. The second best football school in Ohio is Cincinnati, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to college football, Ohio State has something that most other major programs don't have to deal with. Or have to, they don't have to deal with what most others do. I'm not knocking Cincinnati. They're just about to be a Power 5 school, but they weren't a Power 5 school. So in their own big football state, right, of Ohio, they're the only game in town. Like, even Penn State
They're the Cowboys, man.
Has Pitt, right?
Right.
The state of Florida has 3. The state of Texas has 7. So, the fan bases are split, even though there's larger fan bases than others. They don't have necessarily a monopoly. I mean, they're Kleenex, man. They're not store brand tissues. They're Kleenex.
Yeah. Here's a note. Due to the revenue leap, Ohio State had a $25.9 million operating athletic surplus for 2022. They reported, now remember what I said, what they made, $250, whatever their expenses, $225.7 million. So it's not like they're just grabbing all that and saving it, but that's still a large number. Now we know that A&M and Texas and A&M and all that has gone back and forth on the highest revenue of late. I don't know if this one matches whatever they've done.
I think Texas is moving.
And one thing also, the highest ever was Oregon back in 2020, but that includes a massive in-kind, one-time, non-cash gift that led to the track and field facility and all that. And Oklahoma State in 2006, $241 million, but they had a $165 million donation from the late T. Boone Pickens.
Yeah.
So this is pure. There's not like the $100 million donation. This is like revenue.
Straight cash, homie. They're doing well. By the way, Robert on the chat room mentioned LSU, and Kalani mentioned West Virginia and Maryland. West Virginia still has to contend maybe even with Pitt because they're kind of right there.
No, they absolutely do. That's
so it's not in the same state, but they're it's different regionally, especially in the DMV there. But LSU fits, Robert, exactly what I'm talking about. That's a big, gigantic football program in a state where they are the football program. Even Alabama has Auburn. Georgia could have Georgia Tech, but they're kind of in it right now, obviously. But
right now, that's not even close.
That's not even close. So Georgia's in it. Georgia, LSU, Ohio State kind of fit that mold of what I'm talking about, of a premier football program in a premier football state that loves football all the time, has been good, has great history. Not to knock Maryland and West Virginia, but it's not comparable to those other 3.
Huge school with massive alumni.
And Columbus, a massive stadium.
Columbus, Ohio is a huge city now. People don't even realize it, but it's a huge city. So all of that works in Ohio State's favor over everybody else.
They did get a $62.9 million number as far as contributions, but that was a jump from, of course, 21 and 20 because of COVID, et cetera. So that's part of it as well. That'll be interesting to see how the others react and others who put it out there. And you would think about the other schools. You're talking Texas, perhaps A&M, maybe Florida. Not sure about Alabama, Georgia, but in Michigan as some that could be a part of that stratosphere of what they brought in as far as revenue. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina, top 5. This is 365 Sports.
Kick off the new year at the Start Something New sales event. Get up to $2,500 in total values and 1.9% for 72 months on the new 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with second and third row seating options. The Start Something New sales event is happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Howdy, Chet Garner here, professional guide, searching for bears in the wild. But not just any bears, oh no, a particular kind. With hundreds of thousands roaming freely in the wild, yet still hard to spot unless you know the signs. There they are, Baylor bears. If you're a bear enthusiast or even a bear yourself, join me and let's find some bears in the wild.
Join the expedition at baylor.edu/alumni.
Hi, this is Paul Catalina. I recently got engaged to the love of my life, but the most important thing that I had to do before I popped the question was get that perfect ring. And I know nothing about rings. So I went to the wedding ring store, Boozer's Jewelers on Valley Mills Drive. I knew I needed a custom design, and that's exactly what they do. 9 out of 10 of their engagement rings are designed in-house. The entire process took less than a month, and they were great every step of the way. Great options on financing, excellent selection, and talented designers. My fiance and and I get nonstop compliments on the ring. I only deserve credit for doing the smartest thing I could, walking into Boozers and letting them work their magic. Your one-of-a-kind fiance deserves a one-of-a-kind ring, and that's what you get at Boozers. Boozers Jewelers, the wedding ring store on Valley Mills Drive.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:45. Or is it 5:55? Either way, it's the Top 5.
Top 5 random college football thoughts. Was having trouble coming up with a idea for today, so I just start writing things down that I can build segments out of. And I said, why not these just 5 questions? You can ponder them. They're random thoughts. That's all that they are. So, but I think they're good questions. It just, there maybe weren't 4 other questions about these topics to make top 5s. So maybe kind of a best of the grab bag here of what's
so you're just
in my
making
brain.
blank up?
I mean, I've got to do this every day. Sometimes there's not 5 things that stick together, but there are 5 things that I can put together. So, think of it like Golden Corral. I couldn't figure out what I wanted to eat, so I just decided to go to the feed bag.
Top 5 restaurants where you can just go, like Luby's, Perkins.
Yeah, Sizzler.
Okay.
Like that.
All right.
Number 5, is LSU the favorite in the SEC West? They've got Jaden Daniels coming back, done well in transfer portal, done well in recruiting. Brian Kelly in year 2. Alabama's going to have new coordinators, although that's never really been a problem for them. They're going to have a new quarterback. They were seemingly actually weaker at the outside skill positions than LSU was. LSU did beat them. Now, granted, it was a slobber knocker of a fantastic game, but could LSU really be the favorite in the SEC West? And Alabama not winning the SEC West 2 years in a row would be shocking to a lot of people, but I think an argument can be made that they could be.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an argument for it. There's a long way to go this offseason. We got to see who does Alabama hire as their coordinators, because are we saying this if they go out and get like Jim Leonard and, like some combination of, crazy names. But given that what Alabama's losing, Will Anderson, Bryce Young, I mean, they lose guys every year, though, and so that doesn't bother me as much. But the fact that kind of has been their face for, those guys have been their face now for the last couple of years. I mean, that does leave a hole no matter how much talent you brought in. And with the momentum that Brian Kelly's built up this year and having your QB back and all that, as you mentioned, I think that's probably a fair thing to say at this point. Or at least, it's not even to say, but to ask for sure. It's a fair thing to ask right now is are they the favorite? And some things definitely broke their way this year. I don't know that that'll necessarily happen again, but you got to put yourselves in position. And Brian, how happy were you with this season, Gary? You weren't expecting very much out of them, were you?
No, not at all. Especially after that first game with Florida State, you really didn't know what to make of it. Obviously, the driving down the field, having an opportunity to win, made you optimistic. But taking care of Bama, I was not expecting this, especially in year one. The expectations got to be natty or bust ultimately for Brian Kelly, but this start, hell no, I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. So I think it's fair, as heck to think that they might be the favorites next year.
Yeah. Number 4, is Texas good enough to win the Big 12 on the way out? I think a lot of people will think they are. I think we have a lot more to see, but I start wondering, are they good enough to win the conference, or are they good enough to be just a little bit better than they were last year? That's my wonder about Texas.
I think if they don't win the conference, it's a bust season. That's how I feel about it. When are they going to be more set up than they are next year? What do you have to have all fifth-year guys everywhere? Yeah. I mean, they got everything. They got everything coming back outside of Bijan. Everything. Maybe there's like a player or two you want to sprinkle in, but they've got 10 of 11 starters on offense and an insane number of guys coming back. I know they lose guys on the defensive side of the ball, so I'm not. It's just a little bit hyperbole there, but they're as set up as they're going to be. I feel like, and so if they don't win the Big 12 next year, I think it's a disappointment. I think that they should be the favorites. I think they will be the favorites, and I think that they should be probably in the playoff discussion. And if they don't win the Big 12 or at least appear in the title game, I think there's plenty of room to criticize Steve Sarkisian and kind of wonder, okay, if you're not going to take this team to at least the title game in the Big 12, then what are we expecting of you beyond this? Like, is Arch Manning that much of a secret weapon that he's going to be the cure-all for everything? Because I think that's how well they're set up for next year. So, they absolutely are good enough, and they'll be the favorites.
Number 3, what coaches are truly on the hot seat? I think Neil Brown is.
For sure.
Neil Brown is for sure. I think that Justin Wilcox at Cal probably is. I think Dana Holgerson is. But a lot of the things you hear about, I don't think Jimbo Fisher really is. I don't think Mario Cristobal really is. I don't think Billy Napier really is, unless they just really tragically fall on their face next year and don't look better in spite of the fact that they're still a team in very much transition. So who are those other guys? Who are we not thinking about that might be in trouble, who's going to the year knowing I better point this thing upward in a hurry?
None of the bigger schools.
Yeah.
That's why we're not thinking about it. It's all Bloomgren at Rice.
Yeah.
That kind of level of, I think, hot seat. I don't think that there's anybody outside of Neil Brown or anybody that I can think of right off the top of my head, because I'm like you. I don't think Cristobal's in danger. I don't think Jimbo's in danger. I don't think that Brent Venables is in danger. Come on. I don't think any of that's realistic. I don't think Steve Sarkisian's in danger. Although, again, next year, Texas, at worst, should be in the Big 12 championship game. Mm-hmm. At worst, should just be in the game, in my opinion. But outside of that, there's no big name guys that I can think of that are like, oh yeah, that dude's definitely on the hot side. Neil Brown's the one that automatically comes to mind.
Texas has been overhyped, overrated when they didn't have a lot. So if they have as much coming back, then it's just going to warp speed, right?
Yeah.
This isn't overhyped. I mean, they're going to be deserving of the hype next year.
I said if they with them having a lot
coming
back.
But I'm just saying, there's none of that, it's just eye roll. Texas is automatically in the preseason top 25 because of their logo. No, they're going to be a top 15 at worst team, and they should probably be odds-on favorites. I mean, who else would you place above them to win the Big 12 next year?
I don't know enough about everybody else. That's too early to worry about it. But if we had to discuss it today,
I'm not putting Tech above them right now. I'm not putting K-State after losing Deuce Vaughn and losing pieces on defense and losing Malik Knowles as well on offense. I mean, just on paper, they are the team to beat in my eyes with all they have coming back. So, I think that the hype will be actually justified. Now, whether they live up to it, that's the question. That's always the wonder.
That's what could get Sark on this list as they go into the SEC. Yes. But I don't think that they're getting rid of Sark until they see the SEC.
I wonder if you're a
experiment
UT fan, if winning the last year of what appears to be their existence within the Big 12, would that help alleviate the last 10 years of frustration?
I mean, I'm sure it would. I don't know if it might be Advil to a continual headache that is not being in playoff contention, but it's better than what you've gotten. So number 2, moving on. Who is next year's TCU? Is there one? There may not be, but I wonder, is there another TCU out there? Somebody we're not talking about who, finished the year poorly, but needs to, just makes a couple of tweaks.
So would this be like Mississippi State winning the SEC?
Yeah, maybe.
South Carolina?
I'll say Wisconsin. Kind of fits that bill to me a little bit.
I don't think that would anywhere close to TCU. TCU was like picked at the bottom of the barrel. Wisconsin's been fairly good.
They fired their coach, though. I mean, roster shakeup.
Yeah, I mean, it would be somewhat similar, but I don't think that people would be as shocked as they were with TCU.
Yeah.
TCU was an afterthought. Now, in hindsight, that was a mistake because they did have so many guys coming back, and that was a miscalculation to think. I guess it was just brain going crazy over the fact that Gary Patterson wasn't the coach anymore. Of like, oh man, there's no way this program's going to be better than they've been the last decade with Gary Patterson at the helm. And actually, it was like exactly what they needed was him out of the way.
He was the problem.
Yeah, he was a bigger problem than we realized he was for that program. And yeah, once you got that out of the way, and you just saw oh my gosh, look at all the talent they have here, and a coach who knows offense, and a couple great coordinator hires, and voila, and some good health along the way for the most part.
And a quarterback who played out of his mind, who wasn't even going to be.
So I don't know, Paul, because we're not thinking of him right now.
I don't know who it is. That's why we.
That's why I had the random thought of we need to get ahead of this, so we're not flabbergasted anymore. We're supposed to be experts.
No, nobody saw that coming.
No, nobody saw that coming. Even the most optimistic TCU fan was like, Sonny comes in, we get to 8-4, feeling good about it.
Most optimistic anybody could have had was have them in the Big 12 title game. Nobody had them in the college football playoff.
Yeah,
no,
exactly. And number 1, can anyone actually dethrone Georgia?
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you know? And I love to see history broken. I don't always like whoever may break or set history or the standard, but I like to see it broken. Nobody has ever won 3 consecutive national championships in college football. Nobody. Not the Bud Wilkinson dynasty, not the USC run, not Darrell Royal in the 70s, not Nebraska in the 90s or Miami or through 3 decades. Nobody has ever done it. Now, if they do, God bless them. That'd be awesome because some great teams have taken a shot at that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind seeing records fall. I don't really have any personal ties to this one that would make me go oh, gosh, I can't have Georgia winning 3 in a row. That wouldn't bother me in any way. So, yeah, it'd be cool to see that, I guess, just to see history made, although I'd love to see plenty of other teams win it before they win a 3rd one. So, can anyone actually dethrone them? Yeah, they almost got dethroned by Ohio State in the semifinals. So, yeah, I think that's definitely possible, but they will be, you would think, they're definitely going to be one of the favorites, not even discounting the fact that they'll lose their quarterback and they'll lose a lot of great pieces of the NFL, but I think they're in that Alabama mode now where you just expect them to kind of reload. But, yeah, they're going to have some question marks going into next year, but they'll definitely be there at the top of the odds for
I meant Darrell Royal in the 60s, not the 70s, when he had UT's pretty good run. All right, Paul, very interesting. Yeah, can they? Yes. Are there many that could do it? I don't know. Their schedule appears to almost, they
almost got beat in the semis.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the schedule for next year.
Oh, the next year,
yeah.
God, it's a cakewalk.
They would have to have, and you don't want to see anything catastrophic occur. So, all right, great stuff. Garrett Ross, thank you for hanging around with us and finishing the day. Jack McKenzie was here earlier, Jacob Wilson. Emery Winter, appreciate you. He'll put together everything we have tonight, 10:30 Sports Tonight on the CW channel. Tomorrow, back at it again, and there's a chance we have about 4 or 5 guests lined up. Can't wait to do it. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak, for our amazing sponsors and you, the amazing audience, I'm David Smoak. Good night.